My screen just broke as I pressed go, and I cannot remember the 3 words I have to say. Hello, you. My name is Jonti. That's it.
And I'm Brandon, also known as V Squared, and this is This Year in Ink.
Each year, we'll be waiting through the Inklands. We didn't think about this script, did we? To bring you the news and the views on all things Lorcana.
Coming up, we have our weekly features such as Main Street Market Watch and You Made Me Ink.
And we'll be discussing the latest topics and taking opinions from the live chat.
Hello live chat. Yeah, this has been, I mean, we're doing a full year in review tonight.
Yeah.
I realized Jonti brought this up, I guess, before Christmas because we missed last week.
Yeah.
Of doing a full year in review instead of just the last week in review, since it's New Year's Day. Happy New Year's to everybody in chat, by the way.
Happy New Year. And yeah,
it doesn't make any noise, but I have a little.
Oh, nice.
Anyway.
I'll be honest with you. A couple of weeks ago, I said to Brandon after it was probably the end of the last show we did, and I was like, we should do a this year in ink. I think it was actually somebody might have tweeted us about it and said, let's do this. And that's a great idea. Let's do this year in ink. Let's look back over the last 12 months and look at everything that's happened. That's a great idea. And then basically I just was like, so if you could just sort that out, Brandon, that'd be great. So the whole format of the show tonight and everything and all the news we're going to look at and all of the different points has all been Brandon. He's absolutely worked tirelessly to get all this ready for us. I'm literally just rocking up and being like, let's go.
Yeah, in typical This Week in Ink fashion, we waited till the very last minute to figure out what we were going to do. So,
and also, I thought it's been a busy couple of weeks. You know, like obviously you traveled for family. I've been super busy in work and had family stuff as well. So, you know, we're back in the running now, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks to everybody in the chat for the shelf in the background.
Yeah,
that was
look
a
at
Christmas
that.
present, repping all the Lorcana stuff.
I love it.
But yeah, so Jonti and I have been making content for Lorcana practically since the beginning. Jonti, I think you've mentioned in the Citizens of Lorcana live stream you were probably the first Lorcana video on YouTube.
I don't think I'll ever be able to prove it, but do you know what? I'm gonna fuck it. I'm gonna
just claim the title.
I'm gonna say it until somebody proves me wrong. I had the first video on YouTube about Lorcana.
Yeah, so Jonti's literally been here since the beginning. I haven't been here that long, but I have been here since last January.
Yeah.
And it's been a crazy ride since then. And I realized, kind of mulling over what this year in ink would look like, that a lot of the audience for Lorcana, a lot of the players for Lorcana, a lot of you guys are relatively new. You know, you came here after the rules were leaked, or maybe even after Gen Con, and a bunch of hype was built around that. And there were a lot of really fun and memorable moments all the way back then when we had nothing. It was a really sort of like golden era, and it's like,
I mean, it was the dark times as well, really.
Yeah,
you know, you go back to...
So that, before, so I would say that between, when were the D23 cards announced?
So
like
that was
August of 2022?
Yeah, it was about a week. The game was announced about a week before D23, and then they were shown, I think, maybe the day or two before D23. So that was, and that was August, I think, 22, yeah.
Yeah, and so in between then and 2023, the community liked to call the dark times because you basically had nothing for 3 months, and you all of you amazing content creators were making content on virtually nothing, but we're so excited about the game that we didn't know how to play, didn't know if it was going to be any good, like literally nothing. And basically had to carry things for a while. But anyway, all this to say, today we're going to go through from January 2023 all the way to December 2023 and kind of lay out a lot of the notable events in those months. And I want to try to bring, the good and the bad. And I want to try to bring as many of you that weren't there along to show you sort of what it was like to be back then, because it really was a great time. There weren't all that many people following the game. A lot of the people that are close, a lot of the content creators you see now, I think the reason we're all so close is because we all were kind of in this together. And then for those of you that were there, we're going to just take a really nostalgic trip down memory lane and remember all of the awesome things like Knives is already bringing up. What is Challenge? Something we'll never forget. That's a little joke in the community.
My computer made a noise. What is that? Oh, Jim. Thank you, Jim. That's the noise when we get a donation. Thank you, Jim.
Oh, okay.
The thing just went off. $5 from Jim. Jonti's music videos will continue to be my favorite Lorcana thing of the past.
Yes.
Thanks, buddy. I've actually, so I'm going to be completely honest with you. The third one, the audio is recorded. I have a song, and I've just got to stand in front of a computer, like stand in front of a camera and make myself look like an idiot and lip sync.
Look silly.
Yeah.
It's a shame. We'll go over, because there's a really funny moment in Lorcana history that includes a Jonti parody song. Yeah. But it's a shame that those videos don't get more views. If you haven't watched them,
they're good fun.
You need to go watch them. They're like amazing videos that Jonti's done. He's put a lot of effort into them. But anyway.
Yes, but before we do all of that, we're going to quickly run through all of the regular stuff, just so we're keeping on top of all of this. So all the stuff you expect from us. There have been a couple of card reveals since last time we spoke. Nothing crazy, but we're going to cover all of them. We've got a little bit of a market watch, and we do have a You Made Me ink as well. So let's start off with the reveals. Then we have 2 since we last spoke. This is a 3-costed inkable 3/1 for 2 lore. Wendy Darling, Authority on Peter Pan. She's a Storyborn hero in Sapphire. She has Ward and Support, and for some reason she's a super rare.
Super rare. Yeah. Really disappointed in this card. The rarity system I'm no longer really hold anything to, because I mean, we've had bad super rares and bad legendaries before, but yeah, I don't know why this card is super rare at all.
I mean, unless to be honest, we always say this. Oh, maybe we're missing something that's still to come. I don't know what it could be though. I'm not sure.
I don't either.
Good. Great to see Wendy, I guess. And it's like interesting art. It looks like she's in like some part of the Illuminary, and it's underwater as well, I think, because there's like whales and stuff in the window. Like, narratively really interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know why this is a super rare. Because I would argue that a lot of super rares are better than the legendaries. Usually the legendaries are very...
Yeah, some of them for sure.
A lot of legendaries are very flashy. A lot of legendaries are very flashy, and... sometimes they work into builds, but a lot of the time they're legendary because there's a lot of things going on as opposed to them actually being good, and usually the super rares is where a lot of the value comes from. If you think about the real top end of most decks, it's usually super rares. But I don't really see this one. I always think this is worse than some of the others we've got that just don't see play now. Things like King Louis and stuff, Travis says it would pair with Alice well. I don't know if it would, though, because it doesn't need support. Alice gives support to everything that's there for her. So this is as good to Alice as any other 3 willpower... 3 toughness... 3 strength character, really. I suppose Ward is fine, but this is as good as the Donald Duck on robot legs or whatever he's called, as far as Alice is concerned. So I don't know, support in general doesn't really see much play. Maybe we need this third set to really flesh out what support is, and we see a Amber Sapphire deck that runs all of them, and Dragon's Gem, but I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like support's constantly one of those keywords that we say stuff like that, where we're like, well, maybe soon there'll be a reason to play support, and there's just like better cards that we play instead. I feel at some point there's going to be a critical mass of cards with support on them that there's enough good ones to put them together, but whether or not that's worth it, I just don't know. Because the problem is, if it's too much support, you're just going to make stuff that trades up, and you're just going to have a deck of trades up, Support is strong in limited and constructed. Yes, that is fair. Yeah, I mean, combat tricks in general are stronger in limited, right? And support arguably
is a combat trick in this game. So, but yeah, this one doesn't impress me, unfortunately, mechanically, but it's a pretty card. And Brandon, I'll take the other one.
Yep. Next we have Eeyore, Overstuffed Donkey, an inkable 5-cost steel card with 4 strength, 5 willpower, and 1 lore. He's a Storyborn ally common card with resist +1. Really happy to see Eeyore. I love seeing all the Winnie the Pooh characters. You know, we're only missing a few now. I mean, the card's just, it's okay. It's a common. When you have something like Sad Beast or Beast Tragic Hero at the 5 slot, and then you have this, it's just kind of like, I'm probably always playing Beast before I'm playing this.
But like, it's a common, so that's fine, right? I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
It's whatever. This is draftable, I guess.
Yeah, like not a bad card. Like the stats are pretty good.
It's just a big thing that you can throw down in draft. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fine. Like if this was a super rare, I'd be like, okay, what's going on?
What's wrong?
What am I missing?
yeah.
So yeah, no, nice to see Eeyore though, and obviously the Snorlax comparisons came out thick and fast. Oh my goodness, what's going on? Come here, please. Say hello.
Hello.
Say goodnight.
Good night.
You're gonna have to hold the fort for a minute, Brandon.
That's okay. That's all right.
Back down. Let me put you on a big screen so people can see your face. No, not that one. I'll be right back.
Okay, but yeah, basically we'll talk about Eeyore a little bit more. As Jonti was saying, there were a lot of Snorlax comparisons, which were pretty funny. You know, he's just this very large. I mean, he's actually a stuffed animal. I like to picture Snorlax as a stuffed animal sometimes, but he's this very large stuffed animal, just really big body that can soak up a lot of damage. Can hit back kind of hard if you need it to. So nothing really to go on about. As Nive mentions in the comments, draft fodder. And that's pretty much it. Past that, it's a little bit difficult to move on to anything else because I don't have controls over the stream. So I want to hear from chat. How's everybody's New Year's going? He literally talks about blocking the road in his flavor text. He does, doesn't he? Not much of a roadblock, but I suppose I'll do. That's actually really funny. And I just now noticed, it's hard to see because the card's kind of small on my screen, but is the bridge like broken under his weight? He's like literally stuck. Because that's pretty funny. I never imagined Eeyore as being like heavy because they're all stuffed animals. Might find a home in Cogsworth, Blue Steel Resist. Could, yeah. Cogsworth is getting a lot of I mean, Cogsworth is just a good card. I think it's just the wrong meta right now for him to be played in, but the extra resist for sure, yeah.
Okay, I'm back. He had to pee.
Okay.
All right, what are we talking about?
Nothing. I was just continuing to talk about Eeyore.
But yeah, it's interesting to see the Snorlax parodies there. But yeah, otherwise nothing really to write home about, I don't think. All right. So should I look at the market watch then?
Yeah, sure.
Because interestingly, we have set 3 stuff to look at. So
yeah, so we've got some pre-sale items. We have the booster box and also Link the Trove, I think. Honestly, I mean, compared to prices we saw early for a pre-sale price, this isn't too bad. I would almost buy a box at this price just normally compared, you know, considering the state of things before.
This I find is interesting because at least with the initial release, I don't think there's going to be that much more product out there than there was with the initial set 1 and 2 releases. Honestly, we may expect a restock a little sooner, perhaps. But our initial numbers aren't much higher, honestly, than set 1 and 2 initial launch. So it's interesting. I mean, novelty's worn off a little bit. Scalpers are moving on. there are going to be people. I know it's going to be hard to believe, but there are going to be people who just weren't that into it.
Yeah.
Dived in,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
you.
not for them. So they're wrong, but that's okay. They're but yeah, it's interesting to see them coming down. As always, I would recommend not buying like pre-sales here.
Yeah.
Go to your LGS, see if you can get your name down for a box. But if nothing else, this isn't terrible.
No, honestly, that's something I'm interested in too, is whether or not we'll see prices come down from LGSs for like individual pre-sales or just boxes. Because I know my LGS did this, and I've heard from a bunch of other people in the community their LGS doing the same, where the box prices are still marked up a little bit.
Yeah.
In my instance, like I could buy a fixed number of packs. I think it was like 12 packs for a certain number. And then I could do that every week. But if I wanted to buy a whole box, it was way more than it was like they were selling the 12 packs individually.
Oh,
So like if
really?
they were selling the packs for like 7, individually at 12, they might be selling the box for the packs for like $9 individually
Oh,
instead.
wow.
Yeah.
That's weird.
And
Is
I
that
think
just...
the idea was to ward off scalpers. Like it's just more expensive to do the box, which I mean, I don't know if it worked or not. They still have product, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess you can say it worked, but I
We
definitely would have bought a box
we've done
for it.
a few hefty restocks now. We're down. I think we're out of first chapter again, and I think we've got a couple of boxes of Floodborne that we're just doing packs of. No limit on packs now, but we always kind of want something on the shelf that people can walk in and just buy a few, But we did.
Yeah.
Let me think. Now we've done over 100 boxes of each now, like way over 100 boxes of each, which is insane for our store. Like a store of our scale, where TCGs isn't the single product. We sell a lot of
Yeah.
other stuff as well. We're a bigger store, but we sell a lot of other stuff. Like we do 24 of a Magic set, and then restock another dozen maybe over the lifetime of sets. So the fact that we've done over 100 of each and I'm still out is insane. Do you think you'll get a restock of Chapter 1 in the first quarter? I think it might be available from our distributor. Our distributor has said, don't quote me, but I'm about to quote him. Don't quote me, but they think that's it for set 1. They're not expecting any more set 1 now, which I'm okay with, I think. I think I'm okay with that. At some point, you've got to move on. And personally, I'm not really against that.
Yeah, we talked about it last this week in Ink, but there comes a like equilibrium point almost where you don't want to inject too much more of the first chapter into the market, or else it all becomes worthless. And I think we're pretty close to that point now. Like prices are pretty okay. I don't think you really need much more at the moment.
No, I don't think so. Blister packs on Walmart shelves is kind of all I want to see now, really.
Yeah.
As we move forward, it's going to be ages till you see this, Sean. Uncommon Cardboard. I think you're behind. Commenting on stuff we spoke about 10 minutes ago, but I appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, so it's interesting to see. Like I say, stores selling under MSRP. We don't sell under MSRP as a store, but then we don't inflate the price when we can. Like it's just we have a markup on our stuff, and that's what we sell it as. And if you can get it cheaper online, cool. But you can walk in on ours and walk out with it, and that's part of the benefit of being in a store. Somebody before was saying I've seen boxes of Inklands for $179 CAD. That's great. We do ours at $184.99, so just $5 more than that. But yeah, that's that's a really great price. I think anything around that sort of 180, 190 is a pretty solid price for it. And that's it. Yeah, hopefully there's enough there to satiate, and we move forward, and we don't really have to talk about this sort of stuff anymore, I guess. The ones that are interesting, I think, are the troves, because they do seem to hold a lot more value. And I think it's purely because they don't seem to be reprinting those. Like, they do seem to be a one-and-done thing. So the actual product itself has a higher level of rarity than just the fact that it's eight packs.
Yeah, I mean, I looked before the stream, and I think the first chapter troves are like $200 or
That's
something right now,
insane.
because they just weren't reprinted, and I don't
Yeah.
expect them to be reprinted. I wish they would. I've talked about this in
Mm.
other communities a lot. I think troves are like the perfect product,
They really
and
are. Yeah.
I wish so badly that they would reprint them more. I get it's more difficult to do that than it is to probably print any of the other products. Um,
Well,
and for a long time, Ravensburger's main priority was just to get cards into the hands of
yeah.
players.
How can we
So I
get
get why
packs
they
out
just
there?
did boosters out. Yeah. But I think troves are like absolutely perfect. They're just big enough that you can open a bunch of packs. If you're a collector, it's enough to get a fair amount of cards in your hand. It's not all that expensive MSRP. Um, I remember hearing James from Citizens of Lorcana, I think on their wish list episode, where he said, like, I want to see troves the same way that I see Pokemon Elite Trainer boxes at the store. Like, when I go to Walmart, I want to be able to just pick one up and
Yeah.
buy it so I can crack open packs. And, like, I
Yeah.
feel exactly the same.
It's a few people are saying that the troves might hold a bit of value because they're truly sealed as well, like very clearly sealed.
Yeah.
That may be part of it as well. Actually, I didn't really think about that, but yeah, that may be part of it. I personally think it's just because that they're just not reprinted, honestly, where most of the value is coming from. You're right, yeah. Pokemon ETB, which is basically the same product, can just be found everywhere. But then the Magic the Gathering bundle, which is basically the same product, a little storage box with 8 packs and I think you get a die and a promo. They aren't really readily found after the initial release. They are kind of like a one and done thing as well. I do think that's going to change with Magic moving into February because they're changing their Magic are changing their packs. They currently have a draft booster pack and then a set booster pack. Set booster pack is closer to a Lorcana pack. A draft is a bit more consistent and built for drafting, as you could probably guess. They're getting rid of both of those and just turning it into a play booster.
Okay.
Basically, that is going to increase the price of boosters in general because they're going to sit at the set booster price, not the cheaper draft booster price. Obviously, it's a new product; they're going to make the most money out of it. It does mean that like a box of Magic is going to go up in cost. So I think more people will grab a bundle as their little sort of way into a set, as opposed to the people who would have grabbed a box beforehand. So it'd be interesting to see whether Magic ups their bundle production. But yes, I would love to see Lorcana up these limited shows because, like you say, it's just a great entry point. It's a weekend, It's a great gift. It's a pretty good price point if you can, at MSRP at least. So yeah, I would love to see more of these, but I will say I'm a little annoyed that I didn't keep a set one sealed. Like I got a couple, but I've opened them and used the boxes as storage. Look, it looks like you do the same behind you there.
I got I was able to get one. Well, I was able to open multiple, but one was for a sponsored video, so I was only able to keep like the cards and stuff from one of them. And that was the only one that I ever saw or that I could buy. And shout out to Adara. A lot of you know who Adara is. She brought me a sealed trove to Miami when I went to Miami, which I was very grateful for because I like, in case it's not obvious, I like to collect sealed product. I just love the way it looks on a shelf. So troves were initially the thing I wanted to collect sealed product of, and they were just so difficult to find. So like very fortunate to have one of the first chapter, and I'll probably never open it.
I mean, I probably wouldn't at this point because you're not going to see the value out of it. I don't think now, and you just go and buy the cards if there's any cards you need from set one at this point, right? So it's nicer as a sealed piece. I have a gift set from 1 and 2 now sealed. That's pretty much the only sealed product I've kept hold of, honestly, and that's fine. I'll just do a gift set each time and slowly line them up. But yeah, I do kind of wish I'd have kept a trove shut, but I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. I'm living for the day that Lorcana shelves in big box stores look like Pokemon shelves. Yeah, and that's the other thing. You see so many Facebook posts about this. Like, oh, there's too much Lorcana products out there. I don't know what you're talking about, man. Not even close.
Yeah, especially as more people find the game. It was a recent topic of conversation on that so many people still don't know this game exists. Even people that work for Disney don't know that this game exists. And I feel like the more that this game gets put into the limelight, the more demand there's going to be. And like Pokemon is an extremely collectible card game. That's why you can find it at any Walmart that you walk into. It's because it needs to be everywhere for somebody to just buy whenever they feel nostalgic or want to buy cards. And I think the same thing will be for Disney Lorcana as it grows in popularity.
I wonder if, like, as far as like brand recognition goes, I wonder if it would have been better for this just to be called Disney Trading Card Game. You know, like I wonder if the Lorcana is a bit of a barrier for people.
I wonder that too, because I'll step into our content creator brain for a second. Yeah. When I'm making thumbnails for videos, you want to put things in your thumbnails for people to notice and click.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I want to put like the little Lorcana logo in there, but Lorcana is so big and Disney is so small.
Yeah.
I'm like, will any Disney fan that doesn't already know about this game even notice that it's a Disney thing?
Yeah.
Other than me putting like Stitch on the thumbnail.
Yeah.
And I agree. I wonder if, Lorcana means nothing to anybody. Yeah. I wonder the same thing if like the Disney part isn't big enough to really like catch people's attention.
Yeah, and I like, they keep going, it keeps staying successful. Eventually Lorcana will become a more known word, but yeah, I do wonder if they've sort of slowed that adoption rate by having a branded name like that. But probably long term, they'll be better off for it, because they can, eventually the brand recognition for themselves will build, and they can do more because of it. So, and then the only single we wanted to talk about today was pretty much the only one that's of note, is Beast Tragic Hero from Rise of the Floodborn. Pretty much everything else is just trickling down in value, as you would expect. But Beast Tragic Hero is on a steady rise now, up to $50. The one that's showing available here, at least. I might not be. I'm on the Canadian. If I set it to the US, I imagine there's more of them. Let's have a look. USA.
While Jonti does this, Googly Glimmers, message me on Discord about that Trove booklet. I don't remember if you live in Canada or if you live in the United States, but I might be able to help you with that.
Oh, there you go. And Sean's caught up. Welcome. Okay, so $42.79, the cheapest one, is showing here for me with $1 shipping, so that's pretty good. Yeah, the Beast Tragic Hero, good card. I think the reason why this was increased is probably the same reason that Rapunzel did, in that I don't think its potential was seen straight away, and I think the same thing happened with Rapunzel, and that's what's made them go up. I think maybe people might have traded them away, people might have sold them, and then gone, oh, actually, crap, this is really good, I should have held on to this. You know? And that, I do wonder whether that's the same thing this has in common with Rapunzel, in that straight out the gate, like, good cards do stuff, but they didn't quite realize how strong they were and how well they fit into like a meta deck. Do you agree with that? Am I just trying to find a
No, I think you're right. I mean, at least in my experience, when I saw the card, I knew the card was good, because it puts your opponent in this weird situation where like it's a card that needs to be dealt with. But I definitely didn't see it being as strong as it has been and being as big of a threat as it has been. And it really makes me wonder, similar to Rapunzel now, if these prices will hold past, say, into the Inkwell, because like, is there going to be, we'll get a bunch of new cards and new decks will be made. And are there going to be steel decks that just see, oh, I don't need to run Beast Tragic Hero anymore, and like he gets cut and then he drops down to $30 or $20 or whatever Rapunzel's at now?
Yeah. There's one thing that definitely keeps this where it is in set 3, and that's a 2-drop beast.
Yeah.
We see a 2-drop beast, this thing explodes. Because at the minute, this card might as well not be Floodborn, right? Like, you're just not shifting it. The second it's shiftable, ugh. It's even
It's gonna be
worse.
nasty. Yeah. This on turn
Uh,
3, this is already nasty on turn 5, but
yeah.
on turn 3 is gross.
Yeah. So we ever see a cheap beast, you wonder whether or not. Of course, it's something that they've thought about. It must be a really difficult thing to design around, honestly. Like with Floodborne,
Oh,
like
sure.
just naming a character the same thing, is enough to think. Oh, hold on, let's just go and double check. Does this actually break anything? Like,
Yeah. When
and
it's
we
like
go ahead.
I don't like so many Floodborne characters are really good cards, and like they need to be because that's one of the like mechanics around the
Yeah,
game. That's one
yeah.
of the cool things about Lorcana. But yeah, I would be terrified of making a just really, really great Floodborne card because for the entirety of the rest
The
of the
existence of the
game,
game, yeah.
yeah, you have to go, can this, am I giving a Floodborne character a way to get into play much faster than they need to?
Yeah. It's interesting. First to 20. Hey, how's it going? Happy New Year. 2-drop human beast. Yeah, that'd be good. Beast, sexy human. And, yeah. But so Beast Tragic Hero is pretty good. Who knew? You Made Me Ink is our regular feature where it's basically our card of the week. But rather than it being a card of the week because it's one that we loved to play, it's card of the week because it's something that spanked us in play. Although we are doing something a little different this week. We're doing You Made Me Ink of the year. These are the two cards that perhaps have been the most infamous, is maybe a good way of putting it.
Made the most people ink.
They made the most people ink over the last 12 months. We actually have two. We couldn't decide on one of them. The first one is a 7-costed uninkable ruby action called Be Prepared. Banish all characters. I love this card. I have no problems with this card at all.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Look, I'll be honest. Me too, kind of. Like there's been a lot of talk about ban lists recently, and Be Prepared is on pretty much every one of those conversations. And I get the frustration behind Be Prepared, and I get that maybe it's tweaked just slightly, like too good. But I don't think the card should be banned. I'm team like this card has to exist in this game, otherwise the game kind of falls apart.
Yep. I think if this card didn't exist, the game would play out incredibly differently. Like there'd be no downside to just spewing as much stuff out on the board as possible. And that that can still happen. You see somebody play a Sapphire Emerald deck, you're like, all right, cool, I'll just throw everything down, like. So the fact that it's only in one color, obviously the closest thing we have to it in another color is Grab Your Swords, but Grab Your Swords, excuse me. I have no problem with this. It's an expensive, uninkable, incredibly telegraphed card, and for that reason you just need to play around it. If it's just get good. Like
I was thinking about this conversation we were gonna have earlier today, and that was kind of the conclusion I came to. I mean this with the most kindness that I can, but the card's not all that busted if you can just like hold your hand back and play around it a little bit. And not to be rude, but you just kind of need to get better, kind of a thing.
The only reason I would even think about it regarding banning is it's definitely one to keep an eye on just because of how strong an ability it is. But very often with cards getting banned in other card games, and I want to talk this a bit more about with the other card we're going to look at in a moment, it's usually because cards that come later make them more broken. And that's usually where the issue comes from. It's not necessarily that the one card is printed and is just so strong it comes out the gate broken. That does happen. There are some cards, Bandai happens to do it a lot. Some cards that are just banned like before they're even like it's in between them printing it and it being available to purchase, it gets banned. Like there are literally sometimes they do that. But for me, the only reason why Be Prepared needs to be banned is because it's a 7-costed uninkable ruby action called Be Prepared. Banish all characters. Be Prepared is a 7-costed uninkable ruby action called Be Prepared. Banish all characters. kept an eye on is if we start getting some really viable things to sing it and sing it a little earlier, maybe.
Early.
That's obviously a concern, So if we see we have the Shifter lad in, I suppose, but he's pretty much the single only target for this that can get out super early without ramp. Who can be singing this, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And then the other thing is then some sort of item or location or something that isn't banished by this, that says something like Dr. Facilier's ability. If a character of yours is to be banished, it instead goes back to your hand, especially if it doesn't, obviously if it doesn't have the caveat of being banished in a challenge, which is something they've so far been very careful to make sure they're putting on cards. Banished in a challenge, just so that it doesn't make something like Be Prepared a one-sided wipe. So they're the only reasons I think it's worth keeping an eye on it, is because there is the possibility of other cards making it very one-sided. So that's the only reason I think it's worth noting. But as it stands, I don't have a problem with it at all. And honestly, I don't really have a problem with the other one that we wanted to talk about today, which is this one.
Yeah, so the next card for You and Me Inc. is the infamous A Whole New World. This might be a hot take, but I'm kind of the same mindset, and that I actually don't mind this card right now. I mind it less than Be Prepared, to be honest, and that's probably hot. Anybody that's followed me in my content for very long knows that I don't come from a Magic background. I'm aware that there are like Magic wheel cards that are banned, and there are cards like this and other games that are banned for reasons that you mentioned earlier. I think because cards come out later that make it like really easy to find with cards like these. But this has never really been that much of a feel bad card for me. Very rarely does somebody hit me with A Whole New World and I discard all of my answers to like their board state or their game plan, and I go, well, crap, the game's over. Like there's a lot of times that they'll Whole New World me, and I might actually draw into the stuff that I need to like counter. There's been way more games where Be Prepared has sealed a game of me losing than Whole New World has, for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Whole New World for me has never been worse than a okay. Like that's the worst reaction I had to it. Never I've been like, no, I was gonna win the next turn. I think again though, this is a great case for me. The exact same argument I have with this card is that the reason we need to keep an eye on this card is because of what other cards can do to it, and we're already seeing it a little bit with A Whole New World in the fact that this can be played on turn 3 now with Cinderella. And that's when it starts to become a slight issue. Is other cards making this a little too good or a little bit too much better? But honestly, on 3, all right, you're letting me draw 3 basically. I just don't. Yeah, okay, maybe I've hard mulliganed for something. As we get more and more like sort of combo-y decks, this might become more of an issue. I'll be honest with you, I play a lot of like just good stuff decks though. I hate the idea of pulling something and being like, oh, this card's dead in my hand until I find the other thing that I need for it, So I just kind of play decks that like everything I draw at any point can probably be playable or usable. Or turn 2 with Queen, with the Shift Queen. So, that's a slight issue, but really again, all you're doing is you're giving them a little bit of card draw and just slightly messing up. I just don't think it's that much of a problem. I don't know. Maybe I'm too smooth to be affected by it. I don't know.
And I'll preface that too. Maybe I just don't play enough games to like see why this card needs to be banned. Because other than Merlin Goat and Madame M. Fox, A Whole New World is probably the next card that I hear people that I know are good Lorcana players say this card is ridiculous and should be banned. So I'm definitely not going to claim that I'm smarter than the rest of those guys who I know play more games than I do. But I don't get it either. I mean, I see chat talking about turn 2 queen, and like of course that's crazy to be able to essentially cast a 5-cost card on turn 2. And I get that there's card advantage in that, you know, if you shift the queen out and play Whole New World, that's like 3 cards out of your hand versus if you're on the play, that's 3 cards out of your hand. Your opponent's probably only played 1 or 2 cards out of their hand.
It's not really card advantage. And you're disrupting your hand as almost as much as you're disrupting the opponent's hand. You know it's coming.
And that's the thing.
But
that's the thing, like that early in the game, I mean, in most of the decks that I build, I have multiple copies of the card that's most important. So unless I get a really unlucky hand where like 3 of out of the 4 copies of that card in my deck happen to be in my opening hand and I have to toss it into the discard, I'm not upset because I'm just I can draw
other answers.
Yeah, I can look for other answers or look for that card again.
So I thought I'd take a moment to again talk about the idea of banning cards and why cards are often banned, and why specifically wheels, which is what a lot of people from the TCG community would call this card, mostly because the sort of big original one was Wheel of Fortune from Magic, which is everyone discards their hand, draws 7 cards. Basically this card, which is why this kind of got a bit of a nickname of the Wheel of Steel when it came out, with it being a Steel song. So I'm going to show you why. Sorry, Casey just said, if you can play this as your last card when your opponent has 7 in hand, this is an effective 7-card draw, so it has potential to be broken. Yeah, I mean, that's great. I mean, that's, but in that very specific situation where you're massively behind in card advantage, like, yes, this is a good card, but only really gets you back in the game, But sorry, to go off topic a little bit there, I wanted to show you some of the cards that have come out in Magic since the Wheel of Fortune was originally printed, which I think have gone to part of the reason why it's banned. Does that make sense? Sorry, that was a really weird way of saying that, I think. But yes, here are some cards that now exist in Magic. Tergrid, God of Fright, it's quite a recent one. This has been printed way after Wheel was banned, but it gives you an idea of the sort of thing I'm talking about. Whenever opponent sacrifices a permanent, which is a card on the board basically, or discards a permanent card, you may put that card onto the battlefield under your control.
Oh.
Yeah. So, cool. Let's all get 7 new cards, but those 4 characters you're throwing away, I get all those now.
They're now on my side of the board.
Yeah, so that's Tergrid. Hull Breacher, which I believe is also banned in most formats, or at least in some of the bigger ones. If an opponent would draw a card, except the first one they would draw each turn, they don't, and instead you make a treasure token, which is basically a single-use lantern. It's an ink that just exists until it's used, basically. So there you go. This time, cool. Let's discard our hand. I'll draw 7, but you don't, and I get 7 extra ink this turn. That's basically what Hullbreaker says. Doothie Voidwalker. If a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, instead you exile it, which is sort of like a separate zone in the game that sort of exists in situ here, with a counter on it. You can then destroy this character and play instead any of the cards that now have a counter on them in this exile. So just go and pick the best thing that they got rid of. Narset, this is a Planeswalker. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. That just sits on the board and exists. So that's coming down on turn 3. This is an uncommon Planeswalker that can come down on turn 3, and the next turn you can a Whole New World, draw 7. They don't do anything. And Notion Thief. If an opponent would draw a card, except the first one they would draw each turn, instead that player skips it, and you draw a card instead. So now a Whole New World is draw 14, and your opponent does nothing. Okay, so these were just the ones I came up with off the top of my head and went and found the images of. But it's these cards. These are why the Wheel is banned. Not because the wheel itself, not because the Whole New World itself is broken. It's because this sort of stuff came along since. And I don't know if somebody, they just forgot about the Wheel of Fortune, or they just didn't think it would be a problem, or what. I don't know. But yeah, all of these. Notion Thief is great because it has flash as well, which basically means you can play it before the thing they're playing resolves. So it's actually a really good answer to somebody trying to play a whole new world. Like they go, I'm going to play a whole new world, and then you say, but before it happens, I put this one down. So now you're my opponent, you don't draw anything, and I just draw 7, right? So like it's crazy though. Instant speed interaction makes the game so
Lorcana doesn't
different.
work that way.
yeah. Instant speed interaction is a big a big change in the game. Yeah. So, but there you go. There's a few examples as to why Wheel of Fortune or A Whole New World or whatever you want to call it is banned in other card games. Somebody points out stares ominously at Prince John. And yes, that's the closest thing we have to that in Lorcana right now. In Prince John says that whenever somebody discards a card, you draw a card. But they're still drawing the 7. You're just drawing a few more, you know? The fact that there isn't much graveyard interaction, though, essentially exiles the cards, which is quite powerful. Yeah, it does. But like we know that they're happy doing discard recursion. Like set 1 had a handful of cards that did it. You know, Hades still now sees play. Yeah. So they're happy to do that kind of thing. And I only think we'll see that more in the game later on as well. You know, even set 1 had Part of Your World and Hades, and you know, Amber seems to be the one that's really happy doing that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's one of them things that they just keep having to keep an eye on and keep having to deal with, and eventually something will happen that just breaks it, and that's when we need to start looking at banned and restricted lists personally. But I never think that like, oh, that card's really gross is ever a good enough reason to ban a card.
Yeah, you know? And like even though in my personal opinion a Be Prepared feels worse than A Whole New World does, I can definitely see for all of these reasons why A Whole New World is probably the first one that gets banned between those two, like if they ever get banned, for sure.
I definitely think that's the one that can be easily broken out of the two. Like I say, the only difference would be something like a location. I'd be amazed if it happened so early, but something like a location that says if creatures at this location were to be banished, they go back to your hand instead. Like that, then it would still take a lot of setup, making sure everything was sat on the location before you be prepared. But you know, that's the kind of thing that we have to be worried about. I think. I personally, if you had to say to me right now, what card would you ban in the game? There isn't one. But if you said to me which really, I don't think so. But if you said to me like which one would you put on a watch list, you know, for future issues, I would probably say Goat, or any of the cards that gain you lore instantly. They are much more of a concern to me than Be Prepared in A Whole New World.
At least without restriction, because like I think more about Goat than I probably should, because he's just such a good card and causes me so many problems. But I was thinking about like Goat versus the new Peter Pan and Into the Inkland, where Peter Pan is another card that gains you lore instantly. You move him to a location and he gains lore, but that's restricted to once per turn. And I'm like, if Goat only could get lore when he entered and left play once per turn, you know, is he still a good card, but is it much less oppressive as it is now? You know, is it enough to really change the meta that we see now? Because I'll be honest, if there was a card that I could ban today, I would ban Goat. I think it's too oppressive in the format right now, and there's really not an answer to it.
There isn't. That's the biggest problem I have with it. Is if your opponent's playing like a Ruby Amethyst build and they're at 17 lore, and there's a Goat on the board, or even like the risk of a Goat in hand, there's very little you can do about it. I actually won a game the other day. I had enough on the board to quest to 19, and then I Be Prepared myself to kill the Goat and win.
Yeah,
like, you know, and there's just no reply, there's no response to it, because if at any point before that the opponent even guessed what I was trying to do and killed the Goat, it didn't matter because I still gained the lore from it.
Yeah.
Like if it gets to a point where you're in the high teens of lore, and there's a goat down, it really shifts the maths.
A lot.
A lot in a big way. Yeah, massively even.
Yeah, when I went to League last week, I played in 2 multiplayer pods. One of them was a 5-player pod, the other one was a 4. Very fun. But I was playing Amethyst Steel. The second game I won from 14 lore, I got to 20 in one turn because I've had 1 goat, I had 2 snakes, and a Benja that was on board that I could just quest. Wow. And I felt horrible. Like, I apologized to everybody at the table after I won because I was like, I should not be able to do this. Like, I'm so sorry. You're just watching me pick up cards and put them back down. Like, that's not fun for anybody.
I love it. but I get it as well. But yeah, for me, that instant lore gain, who Goat is the poster boy of, but there are also Eye of the Fates, Spellbook, they're all of those cards. I think they're the ones that need to be sort of really monitored more than the sort of flashy stuff of Be Prepared and Whole New World personally. But it's an interesting topic, and I'm glad it's one that's came up because it is a fun topic to talk about. And who knows, they might just put some sort of rotation in instead, and it's not something we have to worry about, and then they can just not reprint stuff that was really broken. All right, so yes, that's everything I wanted to talk about, I think, before we started our big rundown of the year. So 2023, we knew about the game, at least January 2023. We knew I think 9 cards, right?
Yes, I think so.
And it was kind of amazing how much content we squeezed out.
Yeah, and that's something I was thinking about today. I didn't find the game till January 17th. IGN posted an article. Product, I think, like product images were revealed. And I immediately went to YouTube, went on the internet, tried to find out as much about this game as possible because it seemed really cool, right up my alley. And there was nothing. And I came across videos of you, I came across videos of the Illumineers, and it was like, here's Dragonfire. It's the exact same action on Maleficent. Thanks for watching. Tune in next month. and even when I look at my old videos, when I started making videos, they're 6 minutes long because there just wasn't anything to talk about, even when I started making content.
Yeah. So we got so 2022, we got the original D23, the Magnificent 7, and then we got Olaf at Christmas. And I feel like Dragonfire before that, actually. I think we got the D23 cards. I think we got Dragonfire, and then Olaf Christmas Day, I think, in 2022. And all we knew was it was coming out in fall of 23. And there was a couple of articles everywhere, but it was all super wishy-washy. And then we got the ink names were leaked from a slideshow at some sort of conference. And then that takes us into January 2023. So the first card reveal of 2023 was Jumba Jakiba.
Yeah.
Don't think it's seen any play.
No.
I'd love to know why they pick. Maybe they wanted to pick just a vanilla because it's it's less sort of worrying about keywords and stuff. But I think so early on, for anybody that wasn't around at this point, we knew you have to understand, we knew nothing about this game. Right. We didn't know what all the numbers meant on the cards. We didn't know how the game played. I don't even think we knew how many cards were going to be in a deck. We didn't know how many copies were in a deck. We didn't know anything about this game. It makes sense to me that they pick a vanilla because it's just less stuff that they get to reveal to us, but they still get to show us another card. And even then, there was a trend that Ravensburger did, or Team Lorcana did, very early on, and that when they would reveal a card, they wouldn't reveal the entire card. Yeah, they would show the card,
and it would be at an angle. And you know that lovely little blue Ravensburger triangle that sits in the corner of all Ravensburger
Yeah,
stuff?
it wasn't
They
little.
would use that. No, it wasn't little.
Yeah.
They would use that to hide like the lore pips and the artist and the card numbers, some text on the cards. So we would get card reveals and we'd get a character, we'd get the cost, the strength and willpower that we didn't know that's what all that was at the time. We didn't know the difference between inkable and uninkable cards. I should have put that because I don't remember what the first uninkable card was.
It was Dragonfire because it.
Oh, that's right.
We all just was like, oh well, that's because it's an action. That's what actions look like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just gonna scroll back. The stuff's loading really slowly. But yeah, they used to show cards off. Let me see if I can find one that was like, yeah, they used to show like this is Tigger, but that's how they would show them off. They would have them at this like jaunty angle, and you couldn't see the lore and the rarity or anything like that. And I don't really know why they did that because at this point we'd already seen the full image of cards, right? Because the original D26 were all shown, so it wasn't like they were spoiling mechanics or anything. Right. They just really wanted to focus on the art, perhaps. You know, some of these were animated. There was a really great one of the Cheshire Cat where it was like, I think they did for April Fools, and it was blank, and then the cat slowly sort of came into view. But yeah, I never really understood the whole Ravensburger logo covering up stuff and whether it was just that's just how they did it or what. But yeah, so that's what we got. That's how card reveals were done for quite a while, actually, and it was really quite frustrating.
It was. I mean, for the longest time, it was like, I mean, we would make memes out of it. We would beg Ravensburger to give us the rest of the information because, like you said, we didn't know the mechanics. For the longest time, we thought lore had to do with your resources. Like we thought it was maybe a resource thing.
I can honestly say, and you'll have to either believe me or go back and watch my earliest videos. But I can honestly say I have always said that the number in the top corner is the cost to play the card. The two numbers on the right are the power and the toughness, the offensive stat and the defensive stat, and the white pips on the right is going to be a number that you have to get to win the game. I've always, from the very beginning, I said that because it's the exact same as Keyforge, and it just felt like racing to get to a certain number is very much on Disney theme than anything else. So I never thought that they were a resource, and I never thought that they were. Some people thought they were a rarity, like more of them made the card more rare. And I never thought that. I always, from the very beginning, I always used to say, no, you're going to have to get so many of them on the board to win. I never really thought about the whole sort of questing to gain the mechanic, but I always, my original outline was always like, you've got to have the 10 of those on your board to win the game. Yeah.
Yeah, as you can see in the chat, Snarfblatts was the name that we gave lore, partially because of an interaction between Disney Lorcana Twitter page and other community members. I don't remember what it was. There was some exchange where somebody said we should call them Snarfblatts, and Disney Lorcana responded with something. I don't remember, but if you ever see Snarfblatts, that's what that's referring to.
Yeah, that's what it is. And that was about it, really, for January. We found out... we did see some other cards in January, actually. We saw...
Hades and
Mulan. Yeah.
Yeah, when the product images came out, we saw Hades and Mulan on the gift set. There was, for the longest time, the debate on what is challenge. Because, again, we didn't know... anything about this game. And I'll say, I think the majority of people thought challenge was how it actually ended up working, was like you are challenging another character and then another character is being challenged.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of people there were some people that were very loud about thinking that challenging something was a defensive action when your opponent was like attacking you, basically. And it was a debate that happened every single day in the Lorcana and the Lorcana HQ Discord, because we would have nothing to talk about, and somebody would come in and start talking about a card, and then we'd be speculating on how good or bad a card was, and it'd come down to, you know, what challenge meant on whether or not the card was any good.
Was good or not, and then somebody'd be like, "Let's talk about something else," and somebody'd be like, "Okay, cool. What are the white dots on the right of the card?" And then we do that for 2 hours, and then somebody'd say, "Oh, let's talk about something else." And somebody, "Okay, cool. What did you think challenging means?" And it just went around in this loop. Yeah. We also found out there was over 200 cards in the set, and then it was coming out in August, and that Gen Con was going to be the first place you could buy it. We actually found that out as early as January, which was kind of crazy. And then we moved into February. So there was the first big event of February was the Nuremberg Toy Fair, and there we got an image of the Aurora card that featured on the starter deck. And again, it was one of the ones where we, as a content creator at least, I wasn't too sure if I was meant to be talking about it or showing it off, because it was like this wobbly video footage of like a banner, a billboard thing that was up, right? And I'm sure at one point there was a photo of a member of staff, and they were like, you know, trying to cover it. And I feel like they've learned at this point, and they learn quite quickly. The second something's in print and at an event, whether it's, you know, private or industry only or whatever, you have to be okay with the fact that stuff is getting out onto the internet, right? And you know, and I think they're okay with that now, and they're very aware of what they're showing and when they're showing it. But at that time, the second you start to have people sort of standing in front of billboard, why print it 6 foot tall if you don't want people to stand next to it and have their photo taken with it, right? So
I will never forget when Aurora got revealed, because again, like we're not getting information every day. There's not a lot for us to talk about. We're having the same conversations over and over about this game, and just eagerly waiting for Ravensburger to give us a little bit more to talk about. And I remember waking up for work at like 5:30 or 6 in the morning, and I checked my phone, and Discord has like exploded. And like the first thing that I see is this fuzzy Aurora card, you know, that's the first card we'd seen since Hades and Mulan, which weren't even really card reveals. It was just kind of like, oh, these are on the packages. So yeah, that was really fun. And I feel really bad. I forget what the guy's name was, but there was a guy that was at the Nuremberg Toy Fair who I think the photo came from. And initially, like, there were also they also had the product images, like the troves and the starter decks. All of the packaging for everything was there as well, that people were taking pictures of. And nobody really paid attention to the card, because like they weren't ingrained enough into the community to know we had not seen this yet. This was bigger than anything else that they were showing off. And we just absolutely bombarded the guy on Twitter, asking him to take more pictures of the Aurora card, or like a clear
that thing, and properly take a photo of it, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Still now, like, spoilers are taken on potato Nokia 3310s. Like, I don't understand why spoiler pictures are always so bad. Like, it isn't that hard to just stand there and go, cool, right? Like, I don't get it. Maybe just people are so scared that they're going to get into trouble. Who knows? That was the event where we found out that the lore was called Lore, not Snarfblatts. And what else? We got a few reveals then. It started to sort of trickle in one or so a week. Any notable ones?
Yeah. Magic Mirror was a big reveal, because it was the first time we'd ever seen an item card. So that was a new type of card that came into the game that a lot of people had theorized. You know, we talked about item cards. Some people thought locations would be in the game really early. I don't know if people thought songs would be in the game very early. I'm sure somebody thought that was going to be a thing at some point. But that was a really big reveal, because it was another type of card that we hadn't previously seen. Gave us a lot of stuff to make videos about and theorize over, even though we knew nothing more than the card image that they showed us.
How quickly did you realize that Magic Mirror was your favorite card?
It would be difficult for me to go back and look at it. Because also, like, I think So this is sort of the end part of February. I basically went MIA for like the end half of February for a couple weeks. So there was a lot of stuff that happened. There were a lot of cards that were revealed that was a little bit late on for personal life stuff.
Yeah.
And I definitely remember when I saw Magic Mirror, I was like, this card doesn't look very good. And I think that started the whole Magic Mirror meme of me just dying on the hill that Magic Mirror is a bad card, and was another frequent conversation that happened in the Discord of why Magic Mirror was really bad or why it was really good.
I think you've been vindicated though.
I think so too.
It does not see play.
Not played anymore.
No,
it was always bad.
Set one, there were some decks running it, but yeah, I think you've been vindicated. It's been very quickly outpaced. Healing Glow, Prince Ali, Scar Mastermind, Wardrobe, they were all shown off in February as well. And then we got there was a little pamphlet that was handed out at the convention that had a little bit of details on there. We knew the decks were going to be 60 cards, or at least the starter decks were going to be 60 cards. The sizes, it wasn't one that I personally did a video on, but I know people out there did videos on how big the boxes were because we were that desperate for stuff.
And I don't think at the time we knew how many booster packs like came in a booster box.
Well, that's we were trying to do the math, right?
Yeah, we were trying to see how many booster packs could you fit into a booster box once we knew the dimensions.
Yeah, and then we found out the rarity. The website was updated, I think, and it had the rarity distribution of the packs. So we knew that there were going to be 2 rares in each pack at least, and that was positive, and I think still is now. I still think it's great that you open 2 rares, even if they are, Little John and Tuk or what, like you can still get crap packs even with 2 rare slots. But yeah, then moving into March, we again the card reveals kept trickling in. Pocket Watch came out. Tinkerbell Tiny Tactician, Tigger, Lady Tremaine, Goofy Daredevil, which I think was probably the first sighting of Evasive. It will have been.
Oh no, because we had Mickey BLT.
Yeah, of course, yeah, Mickey. But did Mickey's BLT? Did he have the explainer text for Evasive? I think it did, didn't it? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, so it was just another card that had it then. Yeah. Pocket Watch I think was quite an interesting one because it kind of felt like it was. I don't know. I think maybe it's just me, but I constantly got Mirror and Pocket Watch mixed up because they were 2 round things on a purple card that and I constantly had to go back and forth between those and figure out what it was. And then I remember Gantu was like people made videos about Gantu. They were like, "Oh my god, there's a floodgate in the game." This changes everything. I think Gantu was maybe our first. This changes everything video.
I don't remember exactly like when that happened, but if you go back, there's a lot of Lorcana videos that in some form or fashion say this changes everything in the thumbnail or title. And that was purely to spite all of the people on Facebook that would get really mad at the Lorcana creators for making speculation videos, because that's all that we could do. We would see cards, we didn't know how any of them worked, and we would speculate about the new cards and why they were maybe good or bad. And it was a constant conversation that happened. And so I think one day during a live stream or something, somebody was like, our next video, we should just all say this changes everything and just like clickbait everybody. And
it's an interesting, I still find that there's a huge divide between Facebook and content creation. Everyone else seems to be, within reason, relatively welcoming of content creators, and they sort of understand their place in the community. For some reason, Facebook just hate them. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't share anything of my stuff there now. Like, very quickly stopped doing it, and I see other people still do, and some seem to do okay with it. Forbidden Mountain seem to get decent results from it, but everyone else I see, it's just not considered valuable to a Facebook audience. I don't know. It's a very, very weird divide, I find. Facebook in general, I don't think has a very good Lorcana community. I don't think the Facebook groups are great, really, and I don't know why. I don't know if, or should anything be done or not. Who knows, but.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else mega noticeable about March. The Hakuna Matata art was shown off, and we didn't see that card for
A
months
long
afterwards, right?
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very weird reveal because I think there were 1 or 2 times before this where they had teased an art, and then like the next day we would get the card, like they would
Yeah.
tease something and then we would see it. And Hakuna Matata was the first time that they had teased an art, and then we never saw anything.
Yeah.
And it created a lot of speculation because this is where a big locations versus songs debate happened.
Yeah.
Because we were like, oh, this is the scene from the Hakuna Matata song when they're like walking through the forest and Simba's growing up.
Yeah.
But then people thought that it was going to be a location because it like you had the big waterfall, and
it was
like
it was the
like
first card
location.
we'd seen with multiple characters on, right? So that
Yes,
was so
that
we
too.
kind of knew it wasn't a character card, but it didn't look like an item or an action really that we'd already seen. So so definitely thought it was going to be weird. Turned out it was the song. It was the first song we saw technically, but yeah, really interesting that they just showed the art. I think they did a thing where like once a week or once every few days they gave like a real little sort of synopsis of the color. And it was like amber glimmers, look out for each other, and they showed that art, and everyone was like, "Well, that means nothing." So
I think
thanks.
you're right. Yeah.
And then there was a narrative lead interview. I don't recall that one from the time, but
I remember that one because there was a mention of like story stars, I think. And that put the community in like we talked about that for a while because we were like we already knew lore was the thing on the bottom of the card, but we were like, what the heck are story stars and what are they in the game? It turns out they're nothing in the game.
And also, I don't think they've ever been mentioned again in any of the narrative stuff we've seen either. Like, I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Maybe they just like they got hold of a janitor at Ravensburger and he just started making crap up. We got some pricing information. Everyone was a little put out by the pricing, with these, Lorcana. I'm sure they will all. I'm sure everyone who moaned about the MSRP pricing would love to actually pay it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is, even at MSRP, it is a little bit more expensive than a lot of other trading card games. So that was a big topic of discussion at the time. I think everyone's sort of relatively happy with where it sat in the end, honestly. And then it was there was a video of the Trove content shown. It was a really early product. Was it? I think what they're called. I can't think what the name of the guys who do. They're British guys, I think, if I remember rightly.
Are you talking about the We Don't Talk About Uno guys?
No. They got a video. It was a video, and they're called something like Arcane TCG, maybe, or something like that. And I don't think anyone really knew where it was from and stuff. And they didn't actually open any packs. They literally just showed off the boxes and stuff. I think that's what that was, but it was nothing really of note. And then we got into April and we got into spring. Of course, we didn't actually mention the spring thing, but that was a big meme for a while. I can't even remember who it was who got it, but somebody got Ryan to film him saying the word spring.
It was. I think it was somebody at Ravensburger because probably since January, if not before then, these reveals. It's hard to explain now because we're telling it to you within seconds of each other. But all of these card reveals, we probably got one card a week.
Every now and again we got one a week for like 2 or 3 weeks running, and we were like, "Oh, cool, that's it now. We'll get one a week," and then there'd be nothing for a week.
And then they'd skip a week, or it wouldn't be a card reveal. It would be like some other news.
Yeah.
So we and it was never consistent. It was never on the same day. Like you never knew what day it was going to happen. So there's a lot of downtime in between like all of the things that we're telling you now. And obviously the whole time we're trying to figure out how to play this game. Like we're trying to figure out how the game plays.
Yeah.
I remember, Dan Regal, aka James from the Citizens of Lorcana podcast, and Cabled, who's another community member. They had like every time Lorcana was mentioned on Twitter, it gave them a notification. And so if there was ever something that somebody found, like there were people going to the official website, they were digging through the code. Like we were hungry for anything.
Desperate.
And because of this, Disney Lorcana, especially the Twitter, was really good at interacting with the rest of the community.
Yeah.
Normally, I wouldn't say normally, but there were a lot of times that they would reply to people that mentioned them or replied to one of their original tweets. And obviously, very frequently, they got like, when will gameplay be revealed? We want to know how to play this game. And eventually, their response was spring. And that's all they would tell us. We didn't know what that meant. We didn't know if that meant March. We didn't know if that meant May. Eventually, we found out through something that spring meant Q2, which means the earliest that it would have been was April. So we had been like itching for April to come by, and then as soon as April arrived, there were tons of quote unquote spring memes. Somebody at Ravensburger took a video of Ryan just saying spring and then like smiling at everybody. So there was a lot of memes around spring, if you ever see that. And soon, I don't remember where soon came from, but soon was another one.
Same kind of thing. And soon is one that runs across a lot of games, to be honest with you. The game video games as well. You know, it's often like soon TM is a bit of a meme. So
yeah.
But yeah, spring was definitely the one for Lorcana. So spring came and we did get gameplay, but I don't think we got it how Ravensburger
the way it was
wanted us to get
intended.
it. Yeah, I don't think it was at all. There's a magazine called GTM. Mine is, I have one, but it's not the way. But you can see Brandon's copy up there. Game Trade magazine. It's an industry magazine that goes out to game stores, and it went out. I don't know if it went out early, but I think it went out with a intention for a street date to come soon. But obviously, people tear it open and go through it, and in there was a 6 or 7 page, I think, but some of them were just sort of full art pages. But there's about 4 pages of information about the game, which included the very bare bones of how to play the game. Basically, it was like a walkthrough, and you could tell it was written to give information to game store owners, to give them a bit of an idea of what the hell it was that they were expected to come up with numbers for soon, right? Because that's, so often or not in this industry, you're expected to put pre-order numbers up for something that you know very little about. So it was definitely there as like a, hey, this is the kind of thing it is. It's a magic light. It's Keyforge. It's you're placing cards down, you're turning them sideways, you're counting up numbers. It's got Disney characters on. It's gonna sell buckets. Don't worry about it. That's basically what this article said. But obviously, as soon as somebody, and again, this was one of these ones that like scans of it rippled through the content creators, and everyone was like, don't say anything. You didn't get this off of me, son.
And that was, I'm glad you mentioned that, because when we found out that leaks were out there, the response from the community actually was not like, show them to us, we want us now, and they were posted everywhere. It was actually the opposite. The entire community was like, Ravensburger has worked so hard to get to April. They've worked they've been intentionally waiting to show us this. There's a lot of talk on like why they were waiting so long. I'm pretty sure there were whole podcast episodes about like why they needed to wait to reveal the rules till it was closer to release so that the game didn't die before it even got released.
Yeah.
So a lot of the community said, don't share the images. But there were definitely a lot of us that in private messaging were like, hey, have you seen the images yet?
So, I'll be honest with you. I don't feel like it's a big problem saying this now. The person who originally got the images sent them to me and was like, what should I do? I was like, throw them up, man. If you don't, somebody else will by the end of the day. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, and I remember that was a conversation happening the day of, where it was like, we can try to prevent this from happening as much as possible, but if one person has the magazine, hundreds of other people probably have the magazine, and so if you don't post it, somebody else is going to in the next 48 hours.
So they did, and we got a good look at the rules, and then Ravensburger responded by releasing what we now know to be the PDF, basically, of the printout that comes in a starter deck, the little fold out that comes in a starter deck. And I, at the time at least, I remember saying, oh, this is a fold out, this is a fold up that goes in some product, because of just how it was laid out. this image was not designed for the internet. It was designed for print, and it was clearly like a little sort of pamphlet. But they've obviously had an emergency meeting and gone, look, the GTM magazine's gone out a few weeks early. Like, how do we get a handle on this? Cool. Here, throw the quick start guide out, basically, and then from there we started playing. I mean, there was there were some people who were messing around already on Tabletop Simulator using like energy cards from Pokemon and stuff. But that was the point where we could actually start to get cards out. At the time when that came out, we had less than 40 cards known about.
Across every ink.
Yeah, across every ink we had 40 cards. But by the end of April, I think we were close to 100, I think. Yeah. Maybe the high 80s, something like that. So it was possible to start playing the game, and basically Rush was aggro was the thing that won games, right? Like at the time, it was just throw stuff down and turn it sideways and win.
So I remember in the quick start guide for the first chapter, starters. I don't know if they're this way in Rise of the Floodborn, but there's an image of the Ruby 2-drop Donald Duck and the steel Captain Hook that brings back
Fire the Cannons.
Fire the Cannons. Though, and it's not a clear image of the card, because in the pamphlet it's like a zoom in on explaining something about the cards. So the card's like grayed out.
I think it's
bad.
showing damage tokens because they're both
that's what it was.
And there's like a number 2 on the Donald and stuff. Yeah.
It was showing how challenging works, funny enough, and how damage is done. But those were the only images of the card we had at the time. Yeah. So I remember playing with 40 card decks on Tabletop Simulator, because that's the only that we only had enough cards in each ink to make a 40 card deck. There weren't even enough to make 60 with the 4 cards per ink or whatever. Yeah. And I remember Captain Hook Recursion Cannon Recursion.
Cannon Recursion was crazy,
was like the best combo in the game. And it was with that crappy image of the card, because we didn't have the actual image of it.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that a little bit later on as well, when we got the second Donald Duck card revealed, I forget what it's called. It's on legs. The ward, the Sapphire Ward Donald Duck. On robot legs or something it's called. That was shown on a TikTok or a Instagram or something, I don't know, a short form video. And as it showed up, the person said, "It's Donald," and the auto. So for the longest time, the only picture we had of that card was Donald Duck with "It's Donald" written over it.
With the caption.
And I loved the idea that all of the Donald Duck card reveals were cursed, and we had like the first one had like a 2 on it, and the second one said "It's Donald" across it. And I just such a random thing, but I would love for that to carry on. I would love, like, in a year's time, somebody who doesn't, but I would love it if they did care about this enough in Ravensburger to reveal a Donald Duck that's just like badly scripted with like writing over it or something.
It's Donald.
It's Donald. Yeah, and we were playing with cards that said "It's Donald." And you're right. Fire the Cannons Recursion. And I don't even think we'd seen like Lilo yet, but
no,
just sort of putting stuff out and turning it sideways usually just won the game, right? Because there just wasn't much else going on.
It was basically,
I think, was strong.
It was Maleficent biding her time and Pascal paired with Hercules' Bodyguard.
That's right.
And the best play in the game was turn 1 Maleficent, turn 2 Pascal and Maleficent, or a combination of them, and then turn 3 Hercules, and then you just quested everything, and there was no coming back from that at the time.
Yeah, and I remember I remember a lot of people were kind of worried about it. I think I might, and I won't even lie and say that I wasn't, but there was a point in me that I was just like, oh my God, if we don't see some more answers here, this is just going to be put cards down and turn them sideways and race to the win, right? So, how wrong we were, but...
Yeah, exactly. I remember not long after that, we saw Grab Your Sword, and that was the first board... I think we saw Tinkerbell. It may have been Tinkerbell Giant Fairy. I think
we saw Giant Tink before Grab Your Sword or Be Prepared, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I know Be Prepared was after all of them. But anyway, we saw a combination or either of those. And very quickly that, took a lot of those decks and made them much worse. But I remember there being conversations of like it was a conversation in the community of how badly we need a board wipe to be revealed, because if there's no board wipe, then this game was just going to be play things and then wait till you have 20 lore and turn them all sideways.
Yeah. And it made me laugh. Somebody, I think it was, I wish I know who tweeted it now. I think it was either Paul Lesko, the TCG lawyer guy, do you know? It was either him or somebody else I saw today, and there was somebody grabbed a picture from Facebook, and somebody was like, why don't you just play loads of stuff and then turn them sideways when you've got 20 lore?
Yes.
Like, this game is broken.
Oh, it was Eric.
Oh, that it was. It was Eric. Eric from the Gamer.
Eric from the Gamer.
I'll be honest with you, Eric. In case you're watching, I call you Eric from the Gamer because I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I'm just going to put it out there.
I'm 90% sure it's Eric Schweitzer, and everybody says Eric Switzer.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And I've never heard him correct somebody, but I want to say I've heard him say it, and he said Schweitzer. I could be wrong on that. Let us know.
Eric from the Gamer, because it's easier to say. But yeah, somebody, fix the game. It's broken. You don't have to quest. Just build up quest at once. Just build up, quest at once, win the game. Took 4 years to build the game. I broke it in 5 minutes. I love it. I love the confidently incorrect Facebook posts. I think that's Facebook anyway. It reads like a Facebook post. It might be Reddit actually, but I'm not sure.
It's almost as good as the person that was arguing with Steve Warner about
I love
about the game.
You know that meme that's like just commenting so I'm in the meme. Sometimes, and I'm so glad that every now and again that comes round and mine, because I replied to him saying, like,
you were the guy.
You are literally arguing with the guy who wrote the game, and I just love the way that pops around every now and again. I see my name, it always gives me such a chuckle. That's so good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the gameplay leak was like the first really big thing that happened in Lorcana outside of like the reveal of D23 and stuff, because I mean, it was a real golden era of everybody jumping on Tabletop Simulator and, playing with the very limited card pool that we had at the time. Just like goofing around, having fun. It was awesome to finally stop speculating on what is challenge and actually be able to play the game in some capacity.
And then not. It seems like such a big gap between those two events, but then not that long after that, people actually got to play because GAMA happens, which is I think it's the Game Manufacturers Association. I'm pretty sure the second A is just there to make it a word. Like, I think it's GMA. I think it's Game Manufacturers Association. So GAMA is a big, I don't want to say union, but kind of like an association that helps out game stores and game developers and game manufacturers. And they have a big event it was in Reno. It's actually moving to, where do they make the baseball bats?
No idea.
It's wherever they make baseball bats. That's where it is this time. Somebody in the chat will tell me, I'm sure. But yeah, it's moving. But anyway, they do a big event every year, and Lorcana was there. They had a really great showing, and they did have some demo decks. They were 40 card decks, I think. They did include some cards we hadn't seen before. So again, we were looking at fuzzy screen grabs that people had taken on videos and what have you. Showed us the first look at cold foiling, or I say cold foiling, the first look at the foiling process that the game uses. Cold foil, I'm pretty sure, is just a term that Flesh and Blood uses.
Yeah, I believe so.
But it's the same kind of foiling that Flesh and Blood uses. It's more of it's a matte foil almost, really, as opposed to like a big, sort of shiny hologram sticker. Louisville, yes, Louisville. That's right. It's moving to Louisville now. That's where GAMA is this year. But people got to play. Some friends of ours, some other awesome content creators got to go. My boss was there. My boss got to play. I'm very jealous of him. I'm very annoyed that he didn't do as I told him to and steal a demo card because
They were tight on those. I remember that because Jared and James and Liam were there, and they talked about how like they handed you the deck, they watched you play with it, and like they picked them back up, when you were done.
Yeah, I don't know. I spent 10 years working as a close-up magician. I'd have got one away.
I
don't even care that I'm technically sort of framing myself here in this video. I'd have 100% tried my hardest to steal one of those. I'm surprised, in all honesty, not like more of them don't show up on eBay and stuff. Like they must have just been really good and really tight on them. But basically, they had demo printed at the bottom of the back of the card, so they are like a real sort of like a real sort of collectible piece really, and it'd be interesting to see if any of those sort of throw up after a while. I find the foil not as pretty with the darker colours. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Camille. I'm not a huge fan of the foiling in Lorcana. I love the Enchanteds because they're just wacky, crazy foils. But personally, I don't find the foiling different enough to warrant it, especially once I've like sleeved, and I always double sleeve, and I very often use a matte sleeve as well. And I don't really find you can see them. Saying that, I kind of love it if I pull a great foil because it's great trade fodder. A few times now I've literally traded like 2 for 1 on some legendary foils because there's a few people in my community that are trying to foil out a set. And it's great because I'll get like 2 for 2. It's basically if I open something, I'm like, great, that gets me 2 of that legendary. If I opened a foil legendary of it, so or the regular legendary and some other good value. So I'm very happy with it. Pick says cold foiling literally refers to the process of sticking the foil to the paper, uses heat or not. That's. I'm pretty sure you're right there. I just mean that the term cold foiling is only really used by Flesh and Blood as the marketing name for it, because there are Magic the Gathering cards that use this foiling process and they don't call it cold foiling, they call it etched foiling. So all I mean is that cold foiling isn't a term that's owned by Flesh and Blood, but they're the only game that I know of that actually sort of calls it that and sort of advertises it as that, if that makes sense. So yeah, I would like to see different foilings in the future. I would like to see different chase alternatives. Is that something you'd be interested in?
I don't know. I kind of like the cold foiling primarily because stuff doesn't pringle.
That is a good feature of it. Yeah.
The D100 cards were very, very pringled, and basically everything that I saw get open. And so I don't play much foils. I'd like to believe there's a world where I eventually do foil a deck out, but the more that I think about it, the more that I'm like, I probably never would.
I'm gonna have a look. I have my D100s right here. I have them triple sleeved in a top loader. So I'm gonna pop one out and let's just see if they're still super curvy. This is Mary Demigod.
That's not
quite as bad as they were, but certainly way more curved than anything else. In the game.
I think,
and more curved than the Enchanteds. Whatever they do with the Enchanteds, I don't find it a problem.
I haven't noticed it with Enchanteds either. At least it's certainly not that bad if it's there at all. But yeah, I'll agree in that I've noticed that like I have a binder behind me that is almost full of a foil first chapter set. And like flipping through it now that everything is foil, sometimes it's hard to even tell that they're foil. Or like if some of them weren't foil, I could easily be mistaken into thinking that it was, because it's kind of hard to tell unless there's literally light shining down and reflecting
like
back
you say,
on
once it's under a couple of layers of plastic, right? Because I'm assuming they're sleeved and then they're in the binder, So I think they're a little too subtle, perhaps. I would love to see more options. And also, like Magic, for instance, there's usually like 20 to 30 cards in the set that they print as what they call a showcase variant. And it's just a selection of the cards through the set, and they just have like a cool border that fits with the aesthetic of the set. And I would love to see something like that. Just a few, just another little sort of chance to chase really. Google Gamer says, let's be honest, One Piece is taking the trophies for chase cards right now. They've done some beautiful stuff. Yeah, I love the one thing I really love about the Bandai ones, especially, is they have the gold print. They did it on the Weiss Schwartz do it a lot as well, where there's actually like gold printing on, and they've done it. I think once in Magic. I think they did it as part of New Capenna. It looks so good. They called them gilded foils in New Capenna, and it's so sexy, and they just instantly super pop. I hope they do start, and they have to, right? There's no way that I don't think collectors and even players to an extent will be satiated with just 12 cards each set that are chaseable. They're definitely going to have to come up with other options as they move in the future, and I hope they do, and I look forward to it, as long as it doesn't get to the point that Magic's at now where there's like 8 versions of every card to get. It's kind of gross. All right, so after Gamma, we moved into May. May was quiet.
May was quiet.
Yeah,
I almost didn't have anything in here until I found a lot of the Gen Con stuff that happened in May. And obviously Gen Con was big because we knew, as mentioned earlier, it was going to be the first opportunity for the public essentially to get access to Lorcana cards. So anybody that was a content creator and that could make it was planning to go to Gen Con. But there were, one of the big things was the Lorcana event schedule was released or announced.
Yeah.
And so, like, we knew that there were going to be Lorcana events that we could go to at Gen Con, one of those being a starter deck tournament, I think is what they called it, or maybe it was just a starter deck event. But it was known that it was going to be a tournament, and then we knew that, like, the winners of those tournaments were going to go and compete in a final tournament. It was very exciting. There was some learn to play stuff too.
There was starter deck learn to plays and starter deck tournaments, and all we knew was that the winners of the tournaments would go into an undisclosed format tournaments. Yeah, that ended up being
I forgot about that.
It ended up being sealed, but at the time it was undisclosed. It was undisclosed until the event started. I'm pretty sure. Like, I don't remember hearing about it earlier than the morning of the Sunday.
Yeah, I don't think we knew about it until Gen Con.
So yeah, but other than that, it was quiet. We got a little look at a handful of cards that were nothing really to write home about. The only other thing we did, there was some French event, I think, that happened, and they told us there that they were working on, like, mechanically at least, working on set 7. Which is kind of crazy to think about now, which means they might be on 9-10 now. And then May arguably was that's where Jonti got his top 8 playmat from. Yes, it was. Yeah, so I top 8'd in my starter deck tournament, and then absolutely crumbled in the sealed. But we'll get to that when we get to August. But so then May, I would argue, was the calm before the storm, because in June a lawsuit came along.
Yeah, something nobody expected.
Not at all.
Or was on their bingo card.
No, it was not. Upper Deck filed a lawsuit against Ravensburger and Ryan Miller, claiming that Ryan Miller had previously been working as a hired contractor on a title called Rush of Ichor, had left the project, and then they claimed he had taken work produced for Rush of Ichor and sort of tied it into Lorcana, or turned it into Lorcana, basically. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. The lawsuit itself talks a lot about sort of like more sort of trade secret-y stuff rather than just sort of copyright infringement, because it's very difficult to claim ownership of gameplay mechanics. And to this day, we're not really any further in the whole thing. It's basically just been moving around courts. It's moved from like a Californian jurisdiction into federal court, and it's now going forward into Washington. It was very recently moved from one judge to another. But yes, it trickles in, but don't worry. We're all like, I can speak for a lot of content creators that we're following it. Like, just until anything really substantial happens, there's no real much use in going on about it, really.
Yeah, because it was kind of scary. Because is injunction the right word?
Yes,
I never remember if this is the right word.
So there was the risk at the time was the possibility of an injunction, which basically usually the way these things go is that like it goes to court. If the judge rules in the favor of the plaintiff, they're like, cool, write a check, off you go. But there is the basic that money solves everything. It's very difficult to prove that's not enough. But there is a possibility that the Upper Deck can sort of show that the sales of Lorcana or Lorcana moving forward with the release is going to be massively detrimental to their business, and they can put something in place called an injunction, which basically means that the release of Lorcana would have been held or cancelled or stopped. That had to move pretty quickly forward, but in the end it just didn't. They didn't even file an injunction. So which kind of shocked a few people. I think a lot of people were expecting, because of the release time, that they were that's what they were pushing for, was for a halt on the game release, and that's what at the time we were all kind of worried about. But people who know a lot more about it than me can go into it. There's some great videos out there if you want to go and look for it. But basically that didn't happen, and now it's just moving through the process, and may well take a year or two before it even gets to court, if it ever gets that far. A lot of these things are dealt with outside of court before the actual court date comes around, and if they're not, again, it usually takes a year or two of what they call, it's moving into, I don't know if arbitration is the right word, like a discovery period. Now it goes into discovery. So now the two companies' lawyers will just be passing stuff back and forth for a year or so, and just basically making their bill nice and high, so they get paid loads of money whether the thing goes ahead or not. So at this point, I don't really think it's much of a concern. I think eventually it will just come down to worst case, Ravensburger owes Upper Deck some money. Best case, Disney buys Upper Deck and this disappears. So we'll see. But that was pretty much June. Kind of took, a lot of that was kind of took up by June.
Well, and I'll say in between, so in the middle of May, we got, like just a couple of reveals. Before those reveals in May, we'd gone 3 weeks without getting a reveal. Wow. We got these reveals. They weren't even fully revealed cards. And then we didn't hear anything again until the middle of June. So there was almost an entire month that we went without any new cards, where previously we had been getting a card a week. Sometimes we'd get a little bit more. So between that and the Upper Deck versus Ravensburger thing going on, there was a lot of like tension in the community between May and June. And with the Gen Con ticket lottery, because I remember that too. You could buy, I don't remember if there was a limit, but you could buy a bunch of tickets. Like,
it was limited to a ticket of an event per person, but you could buy for everyone.
That's right.
But, and there were people with like 20. There were like people with like, oh yeah, I've got into 12 starter deck learn to plays, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there were like, I don't remember the number, but there were a bunch of starter deck tournament events, and that was the hot ticket item everybody wanted. And initially, when the ticket lottery opened for that, some people got lucky and were able to get into every single one of them. And there were a lot of other content creators that didn't. It ended up being this whole thing. Gen Con ended up telling those people, hey, you have to refund all of these tickets. You can only have one.
Yeah.
Or else, I guess.
If you don't do it, we'll do it for you, basically, is what they said. Yeah. If you don't go through, pick which one you want to keep and remove the rest, we'll just randomly give you one and the rest are going away. Yeah.
And you could hand them off to people that you knew. So there was a lot of like trading, not in a bad way. Like we weren't selling anything, but like I was one of the people that got really lucky and got like 8 or 9 tickets or something. So I contacted a bunch of my friends, made sure everybody that I felt needed a ticket had a ticket before I just like released the rest of them.
Yeah.
But all that to say, like May and June were very...
It was rocky.
Tense.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
it was a bit of a tense time in the history of the game, honestly. Yeah, definitely one of the low points of the year. Go ahead.
Also, during this time, Ravensburger were switching global community managers. Rochelle wasn't always the global community manager. It was a very nice woman named Cassidy, whom we love. But so there was like, while all this was happening, we also weren't hearing a lot
Mm-hmm.
from this Disney Lorcana socials because, they were going through all of that. So yeah, it was a very rocky time.
Mm-hmm.
May and June was.
But by the end of June, stuff started to fall into place. July saw a big event in Germany that was, I believe, it was like an invitation only event, and it mostly went to content creators, media, other people that were just sort of had come up in the German community of the game. And they got quite a bit of info. I think at the time it was, a lot of stuff was shown to them. Some stuff that the rest of us still haven't seen to this day. I don't think there was some of it still under an NDA, but they got to play a pretty cool event that I think gave them 2 starter decks, and they could mix and match the colors from them. I think. Which is kind of exciting. And then also in July, Lorcana Week was announced that the gamer, we spoke about already, Eric Switzer, whatever it is. Just get a proper last name, Eric. The gamer revealed that they were going to do a Lorcana Week, a whole week before the launch of the game that was just full of content on their website. It was really great, and they had some really fantastic articles. I think a lot of people understood what it was going to be and thought that it was like an official thing. And I think maybe expected a little bit more from it regarding actual sort of info on cards and the game in general. But I think the gamer did great work. There was some awesome articles on there from all sort of facets of the game. And then also in July, a handful of content creators, incredibly lucky content creators, got to show off a card or two. Me and Brandon were both incredibly flattered and lucky to be included in those, alongside Hobbs and Happy's Unplayable and Liam and Aaron from the Illumineers. Do you remember what your 2 were?
I do. It was Cut to the Chase and the Captain Hook. I don't remember the subtitle, but it was the Ruby 7-drop Captain Hook that has never been played ever.
Both of them meta-defining.
Never. Yeah. Probably.
I think I did pretty well out of it. I got LeFou Instigator.
Play.
Yeah, LeFou Instigator, which certainly sees play, and Sudden Chill, which is started to see a little now. The discard deck is trickling up the ranks, but yeah, didn't really see much play in set 1. But yeah, Sudden Chill and LeFou Instigator. I can't remember. I think Hobbies and Happiness got 2 uninkable villain.
I think they got
items.
A Poison Apple.
Yeah, is it Poison Apple and Ursula's Cauldron or something like that?
I think that's what it was. Maybe it was Ursula's Cauldron.
I forget what Unplayable got, and I forget what Illumineers got. I know Illumineers got Gumbo Pot in set 2, but I can't remember what they said. Oh, it was Work Together
and Jasmine, the Shift Jasmine,
and the Floodborn Jasmine. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So overall, none of us got bangers, and I think that's probably maybe a running theme, and so, because set 2, the content. I don't think any of the content creator reveals from set 2 were any of them were like awesome either. Really,
yeah,
a lot more got them in set 2. A lot more content creators got them in set 2, which was awesome. And I hope they keep doing it, and I hope they make a bit more of a thing about it. Magic, for instance, again, Magic's the game I know the most outside of Lorcana, but pretty much, I reckon probably 80% of the set is revealed by content creators within the space of about 2 weeks, and it's blog posts, articles, videos, TikToks, podcasts, and over a space of 2 weeks they're given one. And Magic have a website that are like, here's your 2 weeks, and here's who's getting a card, and here's when they're showing it off, and it's it's all really well organized. It all kind of works on the fact that you show it off when we tell you to show it off, or you never get another one, basically. I'm pretty sure that's how they keep everyone in line and in check. But yeah, that's basically, it's all out there, and it comes out within a space of a 2-week period, and it's sort of, big reveal week. And I would kind of love to see Lorcana do that. I would really love them to sort of tighten up their reveal schedule. I don't love this 1 or 2 a week, honestly, and then a dump at the end to fill in the gap. I would much rather see a sort of real sort of chunky couple of weeks period where we all just really lean into card reveals, and then outside of that we can worry about the current gameplay, we can worry about deck building, we can worry about other stuff. I would really love them to move to that sort of window regarding reveals.
I agree.
And then I think if I remember rightly, we the content creators got all the reveals. It was a little bit unsure about when could we talk about it, could we let people know, could we at least talk to each other so we could decide when to show the videos off, so we also, that kind of thing. It was all a bit up in the air and a bit hit and miss, and I genuinely think it was Rochelle personally doing her best to try and get us a little something, because the next day the very next day, the app reveal, the app existed, and on the app was all 204 cards. So, all the reveals lasted as exclusives for the best part of 12 hours.
24 hours, yeah.
The next day the app came out and was pretty good. Like, the app, like, I use it as a lore counter pretty much all the time. I'd love to see a 4-player version added to it. But I use it a lot. I flick through and look at cards quite a bit. I know people who use it a lot more for deck building. I don't really do that much on it personally. I still use something like Dreamborn Ink if I'm putting the deck together, honestly, because I like the fact that I can share it around and stuff. But I definitely use it as a lore tracker, and I definitely flick through it to check on readings of cards occasionally. It's not the best app out there that ties into a game, but it's certainly not the worst. So,
yeah, basically the same on all of that. I use it a lot at League just to track my lore, but basically everything else, no. If they had a way to share decks where I didn't have to take 2 screenshots,
that would be really good. That
would be really great. I would probably use it a little bit more.
An export that just sort of exported a screen, or even just it's just showed it all on one screen, so that when you did screenshot it, it was all there. Something like that. A lot of these things will have like a table or list, right? And you sort of click between them. And if they just had a list button that just sort of bloop, 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 showed them all like that, that would be really neat. But I definitely feel like it's an ongoing concern. I think they're going to be adding a lot to that. We've already got some changes from the original version. Foils and non-foils can be counted separately in the collection app now. So, there's definitely room for improvement there, but I think they're actively working on it. And then August, arguably the big one, saw both Gen Con and the release of the game, the sort of the local game store release, but arguably the release of the game. So Gen Con was pretty huge. Early August, first few days of August. And I don't know how much detail we want to go into here, really, because Gen Con arguably has been covered extensively by both of us and a lot of other creators as well. But it was pretty insane, eh? It was a pretty crazy few days.
I mean, and recently there's been a lot of content about top 10 moments for Lorcana in 2023, and almost all of them either people's favorite moments or one of the top moments or Gen Con. I mean, it was the first time the community was in one spot, basically. It was the first time we got our hands on cards. Enchanteds were revealed at Gen Con, so we were opening Enchanteds and stuff when we were there. There's infamous...
I think it's okay now. I think enough time has passed. Did you know about Enchanteds before Gen Con?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. And that another one I'm amazed didn't get out there, because I think I saw him about 2 or 3 days before, maybe. There was like a really somebody had ripped them from the... I don't know where they got them from. They'd ripped them from somewhere, because they were digital versions of them, but they were still really small, crappy little images of them.
I think it was from the companion app. I think somebody had found like source code in the companion app for the enchanted cards, or maybe it was the website. I don't remember, but it was one of those, because I didn't see them until I was in the Charlotte airport waiting on my layover flight, and I was with some other content creators, and one of them was like, hey, have you seen the like secret rare cards yet? And I was like, what? No. And then he showed them to me. And so I didn't know for very long, but I knew before the announcement, what they were.
I had 4 different people send them to me. I don't know why I'm the person that apparently, because that always seems to happen.
You're huge.
To me, and I'm like,
you're the grandfather of
I'm just like,
Lorcana on YouTube.
Like, I can't, great. Yeah, cool. Can't do anything about it. Don't want to, but cool. Just shush about it. So I'm amazed that, because there are people who do cover this sort of stuff on YouTube. There's people that have done the set 3 leagues on YouTube and stuff. I don't think it's worth it, But yeah, I'm kind of amazed that they didn't break. But obviously we hadn't seen them in the flesh, and we hadn't seen the sort of foiling of them, and they were gorgeous, and the way they did it, I think, was fantastic. They basically said that if you open one, you can tweet it. And the first 12 people, basically the first person to open each of them, were invited to a sort of special little event where they were given packs and they got the photos took with Ryan and Steve and all that, and little goodie bags and what have you, and it was really great. I saw one at Gen Con, but Tim opened one. I didn't open one. I only opened my first Enchanted. As in like a pack I had bought to myself for myself last week. Obviously, got a lot of them, own a few, but I've bought or traded them, and obviously opening product for the store. We've opened them. As we've opened packs for singles for the store, but I bought a pack. I bought 2 packs. A few weeks ago, one of my buddies was in, and he was like, "Go on, I'll buy 2 packs. I'll buy 2 packs." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I bought a pack, and I picked up 2, and I opened one, and it was a Sisu and a Sisu legendary and a foil Snow White legendary.
Oh wow!
In the pack, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is the best pack I've ever opened!" Like, two, like Snow White, like neither of them are mega playable, but still 2 all right legendaries. Yeah. 2 all right legendaries, one of them foil. Pretty good trade fodder, if nothing else. And I was like, well, I don't want this other pack now. There's no way that's going to be as good. And I put it back in the box. And Jason, my buddy, was like, don't be a shithouse. Don't be that guy. Don't put a bad pack back. Yeah. I'm like, fine. So I picked it back up again, and it was a legendary. It was an enchanted beast.
That's wild.
That's so crazy. And I was like, well, that's it. That's the best 2 packs I'm ever going to open. It's all downhill from here. So, so that was the first time I actually opened one for myself. It's my 4th one, but one of them I just bought outright because I was annoyed that I hadn't got one yet. It was my first one, and then the other 2 I've traded and got. Gen Con was it was kind of crazy. I mean, it was a real highlight of the year for me. It was a fantastic event. Eventually, obviously, there's so much out there already. We've talked about it to death of the first day and there is no line and the issues there. But in all fairness, both Gen Con and Ravensburger and everyone else involved really got their act together, and it was all fixed by the next day. And after that, there was a real smooth run. One thing I didn't hear a lot of people mention, it was something my boss said to me, was on that first day, like they did the best they could, and the next day the line was there, and they got coffee and donuts, and they made a great PR piece out of it. He said on that first day, they should have just said, forget it. No sales today.
Not selling anything.
We'll just start afresh. We'll just do it properly tomorrow. Don't worry about it. Go and enjoy Gen Con. We'll see you tomorrow. And I don't know whether that would have been a good idea or a bad idea, but it's an interesting thought.
I think that would have been horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm just thinking about how the rage that I felt after I had been looped like all the way around the convention hall and then was in last place in line, when I'd been there for 13 hours or however long it had been at that point. Yeah. And if after all of that waiting, they were like, nope, come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're not doing it today. I would have lost it. I would have been furious.
Yeah. I don't know. The only other thing, well, because they could have been like, oh, let's start the line again, everyone out, but then you would have just got a massive. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the same thing would have happened.
Yeah, maybe what they did was right, but yeah, part of me just think, could they have just said, you know what, forget it, we'll try again tomorrow, and we'll actually sort this out. I don't know if I'd have hated it. And I'm one of the people that got a box on day one. Like I did
too.
Yeah. But you did the right thing. You went back really late, and they didn't clip your badge, so you were able to go back again.
You say the right thing. I wanted to be one of the first because by the time I got there, I think they didn't have any accessories. They didn't have anything except for a booster box, I think. And at that point, it was like 3 p.m. by the time I got to the booth, and I had been there since midnight that morning. And so at that point they were like, everybody that didn't get what they wanted, like, we're not going to clip your badge. Just come by the next day.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
so you
get
actually
more,
ended
and I
up
did.
getting a good chunk, but yeah.
Yeah.
So Jim, just before we move on, Jim Hawkins says, crazy to think that I've been subbed to Jonti when he had 200 subs, and now he has almost 4,000. It's pretty crazy. It is, Jim. I appreciate you being here, buddy. One of the OGs. It's good to have you here. But yeah, it's been a crazy year for all content creators, really, with Lorcana, really.
Yep.
You know, we're all starting from dot, and it's kind of awesome to see everyone's growth over the year. So, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there about Gen Con. Overall, it was a great highlight of the year. I'll be honest with you, if I'm totally honest with you, in the cold, harsh light of the day, it was a little much for me, if I'm honest with you. It was a little bit too big. It was a little bit too intense. It was a little bit full on. Yeah, if I'm really honest, at the end of it, I was like, oh man, it kind of burnt me out a bit. It was just a bit too much. I'm not. I know I don't come across this way on videos. I'm more than happy to sit here and comfortably talk on a microphone, but I'm not great around people. I'm not. I really struggle with physical contact, and every fucker wants to come and hug you. I can't stand it. Like, I hug my mom once a year as a birthday present, like that. Like, I'm not a hugger. And everybody wants to come and throw their sweaty arms around you.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely overwhelming. Like, it was packed, it was tight. You know, everybody was close to each other, and like you said, with everybody meeting for the first time, there were lots of hugs given out.
It was so awesome meeting everybody, and pretty much everybody came across how they do, you know what I mean? Like, everybody lived up to the expectations, kind of thing. You know, like, everybody was super friendly and super warm, and I've genuinely made good friends from it. But unless they announce something huge for this year, I probably won't go. Just because,
really,
like, if they just kind of say like, oh yeah, you'll get set 5 a couple of weeks early. Like, I think time wise, that's probably how it'll line up. If that's their thing, is like, yeah, you can buy set 5 a week early. I'm all right. I'm okay. I don't need it. Yeah, it was an expensive, long, and also August 5th is my kid's birthday, so like I
forgot about
timing wise, it's kind of awkward as well. I don't know, man. Like, I do a lot of conventions. I did 13 conventions last summer. Gen Con was all of them put together. Like, it was just huge, and as much as I loved Lorcana, I feel like it also took up a lot, like maybe a bit too much of the convention for me. Like, I think I would love to have seen a bit more of it. But I know that if I did go again, like, I would be there as a Lorcana guy, and you know, it's just it's a really expensive big trip. I don't know. Like, as soon as it starts getting talked about, I'm sure I'll be roped up into doing it again, and I'll get swept up in all of it again. But honestly, like, a few weeks after it, I was like, wow, that was a lot. I don't know whether I could do that again.
Yeah, it was a lot, and I remember telling myself, like, I'm never waiting in line like that again, because it was just like, I dreamed for months about the first time I was gonna have a booster box in hand and how much joy I would have. And I'll be completely honest, when I got the booster box, I was with Ixia and his dad, and I walked into the nearest hallway, sat down, and probably didn't talk for 45 minutes. And just like, I was so overwhelmed. I was not happy at all. And I know that sounds probably really weird to like hear, but to finally have a booster box, this game that I'd been waiting to open and play for months at this point. I had never opened a booster box prior to this, even with my Pokemon stuff. Like, I never opened that quantity of cards, so I was excited to do that. There was no joy, because I was so just like overwhelmed and frustrated and tired from everything else, and I didn't think that was possible. And after that, I remember going like, I would never do this again. But I will say, I hear a lot of talk of the Lorcana community about doing Gen Con again, just like a lot of people being there again, like it was last year. And that was the part that I loved most about Gen Con.
For me, it was as
being
well,
with everybody.
That one night where we got that room. Was it Jared who sorted that out? Like, that was really great. And to be honest with you, if that was if that was an hour away from me, like, and I could just go there and have a night with all of you guys, like, I'd be 100%
Yeah.
for it. But the fact that it was like a
Yeah.
week of my life, like, and a 10-hour drive, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
so much. The one thing I will say is when I got my box, I was super happy because my content creator head switched on, and I was like, I saw you behind, go like get moved back.
Oh yeah,
and I saw other people get away, and I'm like, I'd somehow managed to stay in the line and get forward and get it at a decent time. And I thought to myself, I could be first here. I could be the first guy with a video out. And I'll be honest with you, it's my single best performing video, and it paid for the trip. Like the video, the ad revenue of the video paid for the trip, and that was kind of the only real saving grace of, like you say, standing there. I think we got there like 3 a.m, and we were all outside for that first 2 hours, and then we all did that non-running walk run.
yeah. Where we
always walk. What are you on about? But no, it was an incredible experience. It was one I could maybe do every other year. We'll see. But that wasn't. Say again, sorry.
Depending on how the announcements for the competitive events and fan events.
Well, that's the other thing as well. Yeah, like Gen Con, is a big event, but there's a lot of other stuff going on. But if they announce some kind of Lorcana convention, then that's a very different different conversation we're having then, because some people can afford to go to all of these things, but I can't. So I have to be a little bit more selective about what I'm doing. And obviously, organized play announcements will be coming this month to some extent, so that'll be really interesting to see what they have planned for us. I very much worry that it's going to be the same story of it being massively underserved. That's my only real worry is that we get 6 events that each hold 400 people, that's so that's my big concern, is that it's something that's massively underserved, but only time will tell, and we'll wait to see. But that wasn't all of August, honestly. It was a big part of it, but also August, Gen Con was a 2-week early, I think. A 2-week window into product early. So we got back to the store, we sleeved up our starter decks, and we started showing people the game. And then August 18th, the game came out into game stores, and most of them massively overcharged for the stuff. Unfortunately, again, a topic of conversation that we've done to death, I think, at this point. Seems to be that it's settled down now. I'd be interested to see. I know stores in my area that massively overcharged are now down to a decent price on boxes. What I'm really waiting to see now is whether they go back up for the launch of Set 3, or whether they are happy just sort of selling it at a regular price. So that's going to be really interesting to see. Talking of which, somebody did ask, I missed it, sorry. Would you say people are still buying booster boxes of the first chapter in your store, or mostly Rise of the Floodborn? I'm actually pretty much out of first chapter now. I could kind of do with a bit more of it, partly because people are still picking up a little bit of both, but also, honestly, if you're just getting into it now, I genuinely think first chapter is better cards to be buying. Like the staples, the stuff that you're actually building a lot of your decks out of, are coming out of first chapter. So I often sort of push people towards first chapter, at least to begin with, if they're new. Camille says, which convention would you recommend to somebody who's never been to one? If you've never been to one, if the scale of a convention is something that you think might concern you, which it is for me, find your local Comic-Con and go to that. Like unless you live in LA or New York, because they have pretty big ones. But yeah, I would say the best thing you can do is go and find your local Comic-Con and have a wander around that and see if you get a good vibe off it. That's probably what I would suggest. Yeah. We're probably going to choose fairly early. Weekend passes don't last forever. This is true. Well, I don't know. Gen Con passes don't sell out.
No,
it's the events sell out.
Yeah, it's the events you have to worry about. You need to get a pass before the event lottery happens, because I did not pull the trigger when everybody else pulled the trigger for Gen Con, because at the time when it was being talked about and content creators trying to figure out who were going to run with each other, it wasn't looking like a possibility of something I could do. It was going to be too expensive. Life events changed, things changed, and I was able to make it. And so I probably didn't buy a weekend pass till March, maybe, or April, maybe even, well, I guess I don't remember. Was it May that all this stuff happened? Yeah. So it may have been March or April that I wasn't able to actually buy a weekend pass. And I didn't have any trouble, a couple months after January, I think is when they initially went on sale.
Yeah.
Oh, and the hotel lottery. So I missed the hotel lottery, which is pretty early. But other than that, yeah.
Yeah, but I think I'm pretty sure you can, like a weekend pass for Gen Con is still available until pretty close to the event. Honestly, it's just you'll just be wandering around though, like the actual events. Might be some RPG stuff going on or whatever. But yeah, things like big event, big game tournaments, True Dungeon, all of that sort of stuff is gone. Within the hour of the tickets being released. But the actual tickets for the event isn't so bad. Wasn't Brandon on the news? Did you get shown? Did you get some airtime?
I don't think so.
I didn't.
Both of us. So both of us ended up being pulled to the side and got in front of the camera for a while. Yeah. And to my knowledge, it was never shown. Yeah. If it was, I never saw it. Nobody showed it to me.
They said to me. They said to me like a minute afterwards. They were like, "Yeah, the audio was terrible, so we're not going to use it." I was like, "Oh, cool, okay."
I remember. So the guy pulled me out, and then when he was talking to me about like how it was going to work, all that kind of stuff, he basically said that the person that they were going to interview or this thing they had lined up like didn't show, so that they were going to interview the people in line for Lorcana.
Yeah.
And then that person showed up, and then they were like, "Okay, we're going to do this interview with them, but like don't go anywhere. We still want to interview you."
Yeah.
And so they did their thing, and then they pulled me back, did the little interview, and then he was up front. He was like, "I don't know if this will make."
Yeah. So they probably like, listen, we've come downtown. While we're here, we'll get an hour's worth of stuff, and if they need to fill, they've got a clip, right? Like that's probably what it is, right? So it was fun, but yeah, no, I don't. As far as I know, I don't think either of us were actually put on screen. But yeah, no. Overall, it was pretty awesome. And then we got the full release at game stores, and then we got. You've written here Walmart breaks street date. To be fair, MJ Holdings broke street date.
It wasn't Walmart.
Walmart is TCG is stocked by a third party company called MJ Holdings, and they don't care about street day. I'm here on a Tuesday. It's going out on a Tuesday. Yep. Like I don't care. I've got somewhere else to be. It was available in Walmart early. Walmart got, as far as I know, Walmart got incredibly little. It seemed like every Walmart got a dozen starter decks and 2 boxes. It seemed to be that all of them got.
There was one post that I saw that Walmart had stocked early. I immediately drove to my Walmart, found 3 gift sets sitting on the shelf like a week early maybe, and that was it. I bought one of them to see if you could even buy them, posted it, and then that went it didn't go viral, but like everybody freaked out because they were like, "Oh, you can get it early," and then even when it did release, there was very minimal product there. I think there were 2 booster boxes worth of packs.
That's what it seemed to be. Was 2 boosters. They had like a cardboard display about that big, and it had 2 boosters and then a box of the 12 starters, and that seemed to be like that's what the store's allocation was, at least the initial allocation. So yeah, there wasn't much out there at all, unfortunately. Obviously, that really inflated the price, made it very difficult to get hold of. They very quickly announced reprints coming. They then announced that those reprints would happen before the end of the year, which seemed like a pipe dream, but they pulled it off. Yeah. We got. I'm pretty sure now I could still order set 1 stuff from my distributor, but it looks like they may be coming to the end of that. But that was August, and then September 1st, very early September, it got the retail release, which here consisted of Toys R Us getting a handful. I don't know what it looked like in the States, but
it was so hard to get. I remember, like at that point, I'd opened like 3 or 4 boxes plus a bunch of other stuff of it, so I wasn't like looking for it. Yeah.
But that was
it wasn't much.
The full release. We got a store locator on the app or on the website, and then quite quickly they showed what set 2 looked like, if I remember rightly. Like,
it was about 2 weeks.
Yeah, a week or 2 afterwards, We got the product images, similar to how set 3 they've shown product images, and that again is I really think mostly because it goes out to distribution, because stores have to order it, and again they've kind of realized quite quickly, as soon as those images go outside of your office, they're gonna get shared. So you might as well have a handle on it and show them nicely and how you want to display them, rather than, you know, like because I have distributor websites, I'm looking, and down the right hand side there's the little pictures, you know, and you can sort of save them, but they're often like squished down JPEGs or whatever. So, you know, you put it out there and show it in its best light before it starts getting shared out unofficially, you know. So set 2 got showed off pretty quickly. Disney Lorcana Cruise, I have no idea what this is. What was that? I completely missed that.
So Ryan Miller ended up going on like a Disney cruise or something, and I think everybody that was on the cruise, or everybody that was a certain pass holder or whatever on the cruise, got a Lorcana starter deck and was able to like play, I guess, with Ryan Miller or with a demo team or something. It was this weird one-off thing. I haven't heard about that happening since, but
that's interesting. And then and the OP kit was shown for Step 2, and then they said that the reprints would be arriving before holiday 2023, and they did. We actually got a reprint. We actually got a restock of Set 1 with our Set 2 release. So, and then we've had a further restock of both. So they really pulled their finger out and figured this out. Like, it's quite impressive, really.
It was, because for a while we didn't think they would. I say a lot of people didn't think they would.
Yeah. October came along. The supposed October restock happened, which was pretty marginal for us. I think we got a dozen boxes or something like that. They also announced that it was expanding into more regions. They're now printing Set 3 in Italian. I'm still kind of amazed we're not getting Spanish. I know that the Latin American market is a very difficult market to manage because of how little revenue is generated, but it still kind of amazes me that like one of the most spoken languages in the world isn't printed before Italian. But you know, I'm happy for the Italians. That's cool. They announced in October that we would get official events this year, and they've now later said, and then after that they said that we would be hearing about that in January. I think is how it went. But they've announced that there's going to be some sort of competitive circuit, and then also official events, official non-competitive events as well, which is really interesting. That interests me more, honestly, because the official competitive circuit is awesome, but you know, PPG can handle that kind of stuff. You know, even like I don't necessarily think competitive players need an event to be sanctioned. They're just kind of happy to go along, play competitively, and win. Right? Obviously, it'd be cool to get like some official prizing, but for the most part, I think, you know, competitive players are just kind of happy to be able to play competitively. And generate income from it. It's the non-competitive stuff that interests me a lot more, honestly.
Yeah, I think in regards to there being official or unofficial competitive events, I think it really only matters in a world where it like is broadcasted or like means anything, because otherwise, you could like. There's plenty of PBG events people can go to. There's all kinds of 1Ks and 2Ks happening all the time.
Even there's a 5K on Saturday, right? Like, you know, there's some big events happening without the backing of Ravensburger. So,
And so I think if they do something like do cool prize support, or if they, you know, have a large like Worlds event that you can qualify for, you know, like something it's a bit more meaningful to kind of put names out there and show people who's really good, give players a reason to be really good, because nobody's going to travel across the country for a 1K, you know, but they might travel across the country for a regional that, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what they kind of, I think that's what the official competitive circuit needs to look like. It needs to be that tiered, you know, it needs to be local play into regionals, internationals, into worlds. Like that's what that look kind of needs to look like, I think. And obviously, you know, official merch and promos alongside that definitely needs to happen. But yeah, the fan events, I mean, who knows what that could look like, right? Is that just like a big sort of casual playing event, or is it is it like a little convention? Is there, are there going to be
Mhm.
stalls selling singles? Are there going to be, I just don't, I can't picture what that looks like. I can't picture what a non at least an event where the competitive angle isn't the main focus. I can't see what that looks
Yeah.
like. Obviously, the competitive events are a big part, and they're often supplemented with trade halls, with
Mhm. Side
talks and
events.
signatures and artists and whatever. But usually the big draw and the thing that's getting most people through the door is the possibility of competing in a tournament. So it's gonna be really interesting to see what
Yeah.
that looks like, and I'm kind of excited to see what that looks like, honestly.
And that's why I'm most excited to see what's
Mhm.
happening is mainly because I'm like, what's the draw? What's the
Mhm.
draw to a fan event?
Mhm.
It could look a lot of different things. We don't know if there'll be combined events or if
Mhm.
they'll be like separate events altogether. I'm assuming they're going to be combined. I really don't have a reason to believe that other than I just think they will be.
Yeah, that's a great point. Actually, I didn't even think of that. I don't know how they were worded, but yeah, it kind of makes sense actually that there's just a Lorcana event and that room is the tournament and that
Yeah.
room is the other stuff. Yeah, I didn't even think of it like that, to be honest with you.
But
Um,
it's like the main draw to a competitive event, like you said, is the prizing and
mhm.
the points or whatever. But for an event to not be competitive, there doesn't need to be a big there doesn't need to be anything you can like win prefer
Mm,
to for performing well,
yeah.
because then it just turns into another like people are going
It's
to game the
just
system to
it's
try to get the thing.
pseudo competitive, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so then it's like,
Yeah.
what can they offer that's going to get people to leave their houses and travel 4 hours or 8 hours or
Yeah.
whatever to go to a fan event?
Yeah.
You know?
I think they would have to do. Googly Glimmer says that Googly Glimmer, excuse me, says the Willpower League has to be a bit of a preview. That's that maybe that kind of
Hmm.
event where there's prizing, but it's not necessarily prizing for winning. It's prizing for doing something goofy with a deck or whatever. But even then, there was a bit of there was a
Yeah,
competitive
there's
element to it. There's still
exactly. Yeah,
still
they're
people
going to
able
game
to
the
play
system.
the system to win stuff. But for me, they would have to do merch is a big one. Access to being able to buy merch, I think, is a big one. An artist's alley
Mhm.
for signatures that is included in the cost of the event. I think so Ravensburger themselves are subsidizing the artists. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
That would be a big one for me. That would be a big draw for me. If you say to me, it's $100 to get in, but you can get as much as you want signed by the people that are here, I'd be not as much as you want, but they'll all sign
Yeah.
one of your thing. Because very often an
Yeah.
artist signature is 20, 30, $40. Can add up if you want to get 30 cards signed by 30 artists. But if they had like an artist
Yeah.
alley that was subsidized by the event, that'd be really good. Some sort of keynote where that was where they announced a future set or something like
Okay.
that would be kind of neat. Like first look at a set, and then honestly, you give me a promo that says the name of the event on for turning up. That might be enough.
Okay.
All of that put together, I'd be kind of cool with that. Um, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I can't think of anything else really off the top of my head. Mickey Mouse. Give me a Mickey Mouse. Get a Mickey Mouse there as well.
Put someone in a costume.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, that was October really. The big event in October was Miami.
Hmm.
Obviously
Yeah, it
we
was the
did
first like large Lorcana event.
yeah. I think there was a couple that it definitely had the most seats at it, right? Like yeah, there's
Hmm.
and then again we talked about that a lot at the time with that first episode
I
of
think it
This
was our
Week in
first
Ink.
this
Yeah,
week in Ink. Yeah.
was your sort of rundown of that because it was an event you were able to attend, which is awesome. Um, and yeah, is that something you would? See, here's my worry with Miami is they did so much work for Lorcana, and it's obviously something they want to look to do more of.
Hmm.
If Ravensburger come out with a relatively large official package of events through the year, does Miami just move down the list for you?
Yes,
Yeah,
1,000%.
that's
And I don't
kind of
know,
my worry with the relay forum.
and I don't know that other people share that sentiment because I've had
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people be like, talk about going back to Miami or ask about how awesome Miami was. Don't get me wrong, Miami was really cool. I'm glad that I went, but kind of the same reason for Gen Con. the thing I appreciated most about it was seeing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Competing was fun. I'd try harder than I did last time. I'd probably do a little bit more prep.
Mm-hmm.
But like there wasn't a ton at the convention that I was really all that hyped about, other than obviously like meeting the artists. That was really cool too.
Yeah.
But it's like if I either get to go to an officially sanctioned Ravensburger event and do that for a weekend, or I get to go to a Miami PPG Lorcana tournament, I'm going to the official one every day of the week, because I'm assuming that there's like, maybe there's merch, maybe there's points I can earn towards a larger tournament. You know, it's official. I'd love to be commentating them, to be honest with you. So I guess that would draw me to Miami. If anybody from Miami's listening, you need a commentator for the tournament, you know, let me know. But yeah, it when it comes to official events versus unofficial, me personally, I prioritize the official events way above any of the others.
I think so too. Especially like for me as well, it's like most likely having to cross a border for it, right? Like it's a bit of a bigger time and cost investment. So yeah, it's got to be something good to get me down south. Yeah, so October saw Miami, and then we got the next round of reveals for Rise of the Floodborn this time. So between me and Brandon, we went from having 4 reveals from set 1 to having 1 between the two of us.
A shared card reveal.
Because we showed off. And honestly, if I could go back now, because Rochelle reached out and she's like, would you like to show a card off on This Week in Ink? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. If I'd have known that meant Brandon didn't get one for his channel, and that was the one, I'd have said no. Actually, can we have one each?
And it was still fun. You know, I count it as like our card reveal.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I probably should. I probably should have messaged Rochelle earlier, because I messaged very late. Once I saw a bunch of other creators were getting reveals, and some of them were like, yeah, we just kind of asked for one. So I messaged Rochelle later, and I was like, hey, you know, just letting you know, I'd love a card reveal for my channel if there's still one available. And she was like, there's not, but I'm always keeping you in mind. So you know, I'm not upset about it.
No, it was nice that we got to show one off. And again, it was a mid-tier one, like about as good as you can kind of hope, I think, from a content creator point of view. It was Pack Tactics, which I see occasionally get played at League, you know, but not much. The Pingy, I am seeing that sort of Steel Emerald Pingy deck a little bit more. I've started that runs the Beast that readies, and you know, Big Tink, and it actually plays like Bucky, and it plays Chief Bogo. And Big Tink, you know, and then it's starting to gain a bit of traction, and you know, and Pack Tactics can find a space in there, but yeah, it's not a mega one. I think that out of all of them, did somebody get Teeth and Ambitions?
Oh, I don't remember.
I feel like somebody got to show Teeth and Ambitions off, and that's obviously the best card that's been revealed by a content creator.
I think you're right.
Was it Forbidden
I think
Mountain?
there was. No, because I think they revealed World's Greatest Criminal Mind.
Greatest Criminal Mind, that's right. And because at the time I said I think that's probably the best one that's been shown, but that doesn't really see loads of play, honestly.
It was played early, but it's been cut from a lot of lists.
Yeah, Glimmergang got to share. Yeah, exactly. That was like 4 of you all leaning into. Was it Charge?
Yeah, it was Charge, and I think that was it.
Yeah, God bless you. God bless you for making it sound good as well. It's so hard, isn't it? When they give you one, you're like, oh, cool, but yeah, great.
That is, I will say, Jim Hawkins says Pack Tactics is so fun in multiplayer. It is. So a little bit of update. It's a little bit of a tangent, and I'll keep it quick.
Yeah, sure.
More than double the people that normally show up to League showed up to League.
It kind of surprised me when you were like, I played a 5-player game. I'm like, have you ever had 5 people there?
No, like I showed up and there were more new people than regular people that were normally there. And had I known that we were going to play a 5-player multiplayer game, I absolutely would have pulled out my Pack Tactics and Steel and like seen how much lore I could have gained at once.
I just, the idea of like Giant Tink followed by Pack Tactics in a multiplayer game seems pretty obnoxious. and
Yeah.
doable, like playable, right?
Very.
Like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So where's that come from then? Where, like, is it just the
No idea.
availability of products has got people invigorated,
I don't
or
I genuinely don't know because
yeah,
I've never met any of these people. I think one of the guys was a guy that one of the managers was like, "Hey, I have this other guy that's going to show up in 2 weeks. He works next week." So I think one of the those were him. Then there was another girl who showed up and like that was her first time playing Lorcana ever.
yeah,
She bought a starter deck and like played with us. And there was another guy that I think also hadn't played before that showed
yeah.
up and was like borrowing a deck from the other guy that showed up.
Hmm.
So I don't know why. I don't know if it was just because it was after the holidays and
Yeah.
like people came by, but I certainly wasn't expecting it. I almost didn't go because I
Yeah.
got back home that day and I
Mhm.
was like, Christmas just happened. I don't expect a lot of people, like, I don't expect a lot of people to still be in town.
Mhm.
And then I remembered they were giving out the promos and pins and stuff that week. And I was like, I need to go by so I can pick which promos and pins I do. I'm
Yeah.
glad that I did because I was happy to see all those
That's
people.
awesome, yeah. And you kind of, I find it with standard Magic. We're really trying hard to invigorate standard Magic at the store, and it's getting there a little bit. The RTC, the uh, official tournament play is standard this time, so people are starting to get a little bit more interested in it. It's so difficult when you get new people. For me anyway, to be like, I have to stop myself from like begging them to come back. Yeah,
Yeah.
if we all keep coming, it'd be really good. Please, please.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, it's so hard to, but you want to kind of keep it going. If we had everyone who's played Standard Magic over the last 3 months turn up at once, we'd have 20 people. But we don't. We get like 4 1 week and 3 the next and 5 the other. You know what I mean? Like if it's just like if we just get everyone to turn up regularly, it'd be a really good night. Ixia says my league had 11 new people show up this week. That's awesome. Our league had 2 new people. But we're still getting like 35 to 40 a week, so it's awesome to see a few new people. But I feel like we've already got everyone who's cares about the game in London, at least for now. So we'll see. So that was October. November, we got a restock arrive, actual reprint. We think in November was the actual first reprint because it did have the stickers on the packaging, which we now have learnt is a stopgap, and set 3 is going to be completely shrink wrapped, which is good news if the sort of thing that bothers you. I don't really care. Shrink wrap's just as easy to fake as if you really bothered, so it doesn't really fuss me. Just buy from a reputable source. But good if you're interested in that sort of thing. And then also errata updates, which has slightly affected the price of some foils from set 1. For the people who care about it, there are now technically some clearly set 1 cards. I'm quite happy to have a work together foil from set 1.
I'm so mad about that too, because I've been buying foils for the first chapter to try to finish my collection, and I never found a foil befuddle opening all my stuff. So I had to buy one, and it was like a $6 card or whatever for the foil common. And I was like, if I'm paying this much, I hope it's an actual errata card. It wasn't. They just sent me like the new one that, doesn't signify anything.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. But...
yeah, that sucks. But difficult to deal. Like, was that off TCG Player or something?
Yeah,
like,
it was just off TCG Player.
Like, how'd you reach out to somebody about that? Like, it's for $6.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's more inconvenience than anything.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all that. We got and then Rise of the Floodborn kind of flew through really. Again, we got a decent sort of dump of cards on the app again. I think, wasn't it? The sort of last wasn't quite as many as set 1, I don't think, but we got the last sort of 25 to 30 cards were shown off on the app, and then not long after that we got the release of Floodborn. It seemed to go better. For the most part, at least from what I can see, it went a little bit better. The initial quantity wasn't anymore for us, but people that sort of cared a bit more about it were a bit more ready for it this time. And then what else did we get? Oh yeah, the official Discord launched. I'm in it. I never look at it though. It's way too
I don't
big.
look at it much either. Yeah, I look in it sometimes, and I usually can't like just. I only have a couple seconds usually, so I look, and if sometimes I'll randomly respond to something, and then I usually duck out. And yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit too big for me. They're all a bit too crazy now. The big Discords.
Yeah.
Ravensburger attempted to sell Rise of the Floodborn online. That went terribly.
Yes. Yeah, it went horribly.
The whole site crashed, and there was a big DDoS attack. Whether or not it was actually sort of like targeted attack or just loads of people using bots to buy stuff, I don't think they actually announced in the end. But yeah.
Well, no, the Q share or Q, I forget what the company's called. The company they used to try to mitigate that came out with a
statement
statement. Yes, thank you. That basically it said like, yes, it was a DDoS attack. Like it was intentional. It was somebody.
Right. It wasn't just people using bots to try and buy it. It actually was somebody actually trying to overload the system. Upper Deck, maybe. Sorry, that's a joke. I don't mean that. That's a joke. So, and then interestingly, they said like, well, that's it then. We're taking our ball and we're going home. We're never going to sell this stuff on Ravensburger website. We're just going to ship it out to stores instead.
Yeah, I think so.
Whether we'll actually see that as a quantifiable number or not, or if it just gets trickled into numbers moving forward, we'll find out. And then they told us in November about the Willpower League that then took place at the start of December at PAX Unplugged. Mm-hmm. Was that on your radar? My big problem with these a lot of the time is that they announce all of this stuff so close to the event that unless you were already going, you've got no real chance of getting there.
I mean, I remember looking at PAX and just being like, I don't see a reason that I need to go. Like, if there's no official tournament happening, and other than that, we didn't know about Willpower League or anything. Also, I remember the tickets for that stuff sold out like instantly.
It's just one of those ones that just sells out no matter what's there. People enough people just go to it because that's their big one they do each year, kind of thing.
Yeah, and so it was never really on my radar other than it was happening, and I knew Lorcana stuff was happening there, and I followed it, as it was happening. But
if it was announced earlier and tickets were available, do you think you'd have looked at it a bit more?
Probably not. No. Like I think by the time PAX was even on my radar, we already knew about an official circuit and fan events. And basically, since we learned about that, I went to Miami mainly for the artists and because I knew it was going to be like a large turn. Well, it was the first Lorcana competitive event that I think we knew of. It wasn't the first one that happened.
No,
because I think
there
was
one
that happened like in Denver.
Yeah,
but they announced it very early, and so I made sure I wanted to go to that for that reason. But as soon as I heard about official stuff and how soon it was, I just basically put a full stop on all like traveling for Lorcana.
That makes sense. Yeah. Disney Lorcana won Best Ongoing Card Game Award from,
I don't remember
someone
what it was.
No. Interesting one. I mean, I like the game. I don't know whether it's deserved. I think it's maybe a bit too early to call it the best card game, but it's certainly had a huge year and a huge launch.
Yes.
And I don't really think we've seen a launch of a card game like this since Pokemon, honestly. Like, a lot of stuff has come and gone and done very well. One Piece, the Digimon relaunch did very well. Flesh and Blood has done admirably for a brand new IP and has carved out a market. But I don't think any of them are close to the sort of buzz wrapped around Lorcana, honestly. So, in that way, it's probably very deserved. And then also in December, we got Into the Inklands announced. A lot of people saying it's maybe a little early to announce. I don't think it is really. Again, we talked about this at the time. I know the next 4 Magic sets. It's how this works.
Yeah, I would have preferred it got revealed maybe like a week later than it did because I do like that it's been revealed. we know like 7 cards from the set so far, and they haven't been like giving us a slow drip of stuff. I'm kind of happy that like we see the products. It's kind of sitting there in the background of my mind, but it's not overshadowing all of the Rise of the Floodborn stuff that's still happening right now, which I like.
But then I also feel that like, you know, people like you say, a lot of people say no, it's kind of a, you know, it's overshadowing set 2 or whatever, and people are always starting to think about it. But like, I feel like the set 2 meta is solved at this point. Like
that's the unfortunate part.
Yeah, unless something really changes up.
Yeah, I don't think that there's much more that's gonna happen for Rise of the Floodborn meta. I don't think people are gonna find a deck that, you know, shakes things up a lot. I think what'll happen is what we've seen happen recently. There was 160 something person tournament like right before Christmas, I think in the UK, and there was 2 Emerald Steel decks, a Amber Ruby Mufasa deck, and like there were a wide range of decks. But I think Ruby Amethyst still won. So I think we're basically going to see like Ruby Amethyst is just going to be tier 0. We expect to see it in top 8s for every tournament for Rise of the Floodborn, if not win the tournament. And then any of the cool changes are going to be, or like interesting surprises are going to be in the tier 1 or tier 2 bracket that never wins the tournament. But oh my God, Sapphire Steel made it into top 8. You know, like
I think that's it. I mean, like Steel Song isn't up there, isn't as high as Ruby Amethyst, but I would definitely say is like the second best performing deck, just because of how consistently it's up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the closest thing to competing with Ruby Amethyst, but it's not very close.
No, that's the thing. It's not. But then, like you say, I think everything else then is just a good deck on a good day with a good pilot, you know, doing well. Like say Emerald Steel with some discard and some pinging stuff is doing quite well. I absolutely adore the Ruby Amber Mufasa deck. It's so much fun to play, and also like it's kind of a blast to play against. And I was yeah, that, you know, maybe it's just me, maybe it's just the sort of nihilist in me. But I was playing opposite against it with my friend the other day, and I was just sort of sat there, and it was my turn. I was looking, and he was like, "What are you?" He said, "What are you thinking? Do you mind me asking you?" I said, "Honestly, I kind of run over into the Mufasa just to see what happens. like I kind of want to spin the wheel. It's just so much fun." I'm a big fan of that though. I'm a big fan of those sort of like random, let's see what we get. It's, you know, like I kind of dig that play style.
I don't despise the deck. I hate the deck because it's a very high rolly deck, and I feel it feels so bad when I lose against it, and it's like, they like top decked the thing they needed to win the game.
Yeah, they went Mufasa top deck to Rapunzel with the Mother Gothel sat there. And, you know, I love it. I think it's great. Hey, be our guest Heath, how's it going, buddy? Howdy everyone. Would love to see Mufasa get some extra support. Would like to see a true combo deck that's even tier 2 viable. I mean, I personally think it's there, honestly. I think it's just and all you really need is more like decent ETB stuff in those colors, right? Like that's all it needs to be. Because at the moment, you know, you get the monstrous dragon or the Lady Tremaine come down, it's pretty much always value. The Hades sees playing that deck that, you know, to bring something back from the Hades, get some value. But yeah, the more stuff we see in those colors that just, you know, comes out and is good. I don't know. I think I love it. I love the chaos of it. I love the fact that it's a wheel spinning. I love the fact that it's kind of like be prepared insurance. You know, like I kind of dig it. Yeah.
I was gonna say, Heath, I think it's at least tier 2 viable. Like out of all the decks that I've seen that aren't bad, I think Amber Ruby's one of those for sure. And I would recommend looking up. You can go to Inkdex. You can look up the goat. It's like the Capri A Principess tournament. It was an Italian tournament. It had 160 something people. It made top 4. It was a Amber Ruby deck that does all the things you think it would do. It just plays a lot of good cards and
Let me see
tries
if I
to
can
hit them all
find
with
it.
Mufasa.
See if I can find it.
I think
Ruby
it's
Amber.
definitely viable, though, if it's something you feel like playing with.
I got it. I done the work. I got it. There it is. Ruby Amber, the goat, and no goat here. So
No.
yeah. So the only one that kind of surprises me in this build is the Rockstar Stitch package. And I suppose because the thing is, as good as that Rockstar Stitch is, and as good as you're gonna love that coming down off the back of a Mufasa, you're not gonna necessarily want all the 1 and 2 drops that feed him coming off the Mufasa.
Yeah.
You know?
I think the primary reason for it is because the deck really suffers if you can't draw.
Yeah.
And there's not many other better draw like engines in these 2 colors.
Yeah. And I mean, I get, the Simba, you're happy for him to come down exerted, I suppose. The little Snow White, I don't think I'd run her really, that little Snow White. Yeah, okay, you get a bit of damage from chosen character, but I don't know. I think I'd rather I'd lean more into the evasives of Goofy and Bongo really off rather than those. But yeah, I get it. You've got to have a certain amount of.
Actually, really interesting because I expect to see the shift Snow White if there's the little one.
Yeah, that's it. Really,
Yeah.
Again, doing that. Trying to get that recursion, get the Mufasas popping again.
Yeah.
And the Hades isn't there either for the same kind of reason. I mean, that's how good is that? The Mufasa dying, Hades coming out, you grabbing the Mufasa back again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this is an interesting build, really. I should clarify what I mean by viable, which is to say a little bit more consistent. Combo will always rely somewhat on luck, but I'd love to see it get a little bit more extra tools. Yeah, and that's it. But the reason I love this is because of how inconsistent it is. I love the fact that it's like, oh, what did I get? Oh, cool, I got a new dog. Exerted 2/2. I kind of love that. But again, it's not. I would never take this to a tournament ever.
And that's it. I think that's what frustrates me most about this deck. I look at this deck and I'm like, how in the world did it make top 4 in a over 150 person tournament? Like, what kind of day did they have to have with this deck?
Yeah, I mean, Stefano is either like the greatest player or just nailed the look of it, or a bit of both. Who knows?
Yeah.
But always run longer games, kill everything they put on board until my opponent runs out of cards in their hand. Yeah, and it is, you are going to get some value out of just the entropy there with the like Tremaine and Maui and Maleficent. They're all there doing that, right? They're just crushing down their board. But yeah, personally, I'd lean a bit more into the evasives, and I feel like I'd maybe even try Surfer Stitch over Rockstar, honestly, in this for some card draw.
I've seen him played in different lists for these colors for sure.
Yeah, but just a fun deck with some wacky plays, and I dig that. And maybe it's just maybe the reason I dig it is just because it's so refreshing after the uber consistency of Ruby Amethyst, know, and that maybe that's the thing that's sort of appealing to me, is that Ruby Amethyst is fun. It's it's my main competitive deck at the moment, but I'm doing the same. I'm playing the 1-drop. I'm playing Snake.
Yeah.
I'm playing Fox. I'm getting Goat out. I'm playing another Fox. Like it's just the same thing over and over again. So I like the fact that it's a bit more goofy.
Yeah, anything different. It's unconventional colors, too. It's not Amber Steel. It's also not Amethyst X, which is also just like Amethyst in general is just so good. It's like good with anything and kind of annoying to play against.
Yeah.
So,
my go-to fun deck at the moment, like my non-competitive deck, is actually Sapphire Emerald, just because I want it to be really in colors that nobody cares about. But I'm having a blast with it, absolute blast with it. Like it's kind of just it's just good stuff colors. It's just that it kind of leans into it's Bucky. Mm-hmm. And all of the 5-costed Floodborns from Sapphire, so Cogsworth, Ward Aurora, and the Jasmine Queen, and then in Emerald it's some discard stuff and Lucifer and Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo.
Great.
And I have so much fun Bibbidi Bobbidi Booing.
Lucifer.
So either like shifting a Floodborn on 3. Singing Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, getting Lucifer down, or even just like Lucifer, Bibbidi Bobbidi Lucifer again.
Lucifer,
like is kind of gross.
That's very gross, yeah.
But again, it's so inconsistent, and that's kind of what I dig about it, is because it either explodes or whimpers. Like there's no in between ground, right?
Yeah.
Like it's either the most oppressive deck you've ever played against, or it's. So what were you trying to do? Like that's all the only my opponents only ever have 2 responses with that deck. It's either like that's your casual deck, or what was that trying to do? Like there's no in between ground. It's so much fun.
Honestly, I love and encourage people, especially in metas like this where they're just so dominated, to bring decks like that to League. I don't blame the people that bring Ruby Amethyst to League, because maybe it's the only time they get to play and like they want to win, or they're trying to practice for a local tournament, whatever. But that can get really old and boring and unfun to play against when there's too much of it. And so like coming to League with fun decks like Ruby Amber or Sapphire Emerald or something that is not like the most consistent, but you have fun when it pops off.
100%.
Is so awesome for casuals.
So this week I was at League, and I was there for the full thing, and I got to play, and I said I'm gonna take Ruby Amethyst, and I've actually been like tweaking it and a little bit, and I've been leaning a bit more into the rush stuff with the Peter Pan Shadow and stuff, and I was like, no, do you know what? I'm gonna strip it all away, and I'm gonna play the Tier 0. I'm gonna take out all the stuff that I've been playing with. I'm gonna put in the absolute Tier 0 and play it for a week. And then I'm going to put it away, and then I'm going to stop playing. So, like I'm going to have 1 week of just like absolute sweaty
dominating,
sweaty tryhards. Yeah. I must have played 12 games, and I won 11 of them. And the only thing that beat me, was this janky ass Ruby Emerald evasive discard weird stuff deck that I just didn't know what to do with. Piloted by a very good player, like a really nice guy, but a very, very competent player. And he was like, "Yeah, I've just built this really janky ass thing. Let's see." And we play like we only allow the points. We only allow your win or loss for one person. Because we were having a bit of a problem with like a group of 3 or 4 people playing and just sort of sitting in a little pod and playing around each other and then leaving again. And we're like, no, the whole point of this is to move around the room. So like to get your 10 points, you have to play at least 5 people, right? Because you get 2 points for a win. So we normally only play somebody once, then you go, cheers for the game, and then you go off and try and find somebody else for your points, right? But it was late in the day, and I don't count my points because I kind of work there, and I just take the promos when they come in. But Owen had got his points, and I was like, can we just play again? And he was like, oh, do you want to try and beat it? And I was like, no, I just kind of want to figure it out. Like, I've got absolutely no idea what just happened. It was just like a blur. This weird-ass deck. That was just every card he played, I was like twice I had to do this to read it. I was like, what's that again? Like, I love that. But they say, how awesome's that though? Like, just play something that you have no idea what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Super unconventional. I love it.
Great fun. And that was it. That takes us into December. Yeah. Packs Unplugged. And then into the Inklands announced. Location cards revealed. I don't think it's going to be the big shakeup that people think. I think they're going to be kind of similar to items. I think there's going to be one deck that you can build with them that's pretty juicy and likes them, and then maybe everyone else runs 1 or 2 of them, and that's about it.
I don't think set 3 is going to solve the Amethyst issue that we have right now. And I see a lot of people saying that or hoping that and saying things like, well, these sets were built together. We're not playing with a complete game, yada, yada, yada. And like, I get it. I understand where they're coming from, but I do not think that set 3 is going to save us from like the Merlin meme stuff that's happening.
What we have to see is a couple of cards that are good in their own right, as in just a good, like, well-statted characters, that also say something like, when a card is bounced to an opponent's hand, they lose a law, or something like that. It needs to be, not only is it needs to be a hard counter to the bounce, but it also needs to be good, right? Because there are hard counters to actions, there are hard counters to items, and they just don't see that much play. Even though earlier in this show we talked about the two biggest cards of the game, the real sort of defining cards that people think should be banned, are both actions, right?
Yep.
Yet nobody is playing action hate, even though it exists, right?
Yeah.
There's that Tiana that means they can't play them or whatever. So not only does it have to be a hard counter to bounce, it also needs to be a good card in its own right, so that it sees play. And that's what set 3 needs to bring for there to be any change in what's going on. Because I genuinely think the Amethyst Amethyst in general is just good because it's card draw, and card draw is the best thing you can do in a game, right? But the Fox and Goat specifically, I mean, all the others kind of fall into it, but Fox plus Goat, the problem is that Fox, the ability on Fox and Snake and all the mims or whatever, but mainly Fox, the ability on Fox that says you either banish it or return something, was designed as a downside,
as a bad thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't even think I can say that that's an opinion of mine. I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that's fact, because Fox is purely just better Rafiki without that wording on it. It is statted better, it is inkable. Two things that Rafiki isn't. So the only reason that it's just not power creep on Rafiki is that you have to bounce something back. So they built that card with the bounce ability being a downside to it. Turns out it isn't. It just isn't.
And it's usually a good thing. It's like
pretty much always a good thing, or at least something you're happy to have a one drop that can quest and then come back, and then it's your ink next turn, right? Like that's the downside. The only real fix for it is either giving them a negative for bouncing stuff back, or having more cheap, easy, and accessible ways to kill the target of the bounce. So,
and even then,
to get rid of the one drop so they can't snake, or get rid of the two drops so they can't.
Okay,
So what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. Like, easy, cheap, quick ways to get rid of their two drop so they can't play the telegraphed Fox on curve. Like, that's the only other real answer to it, and that's why I think you've seen a lot of builds use the like the 1/3s and teeth. Really, but then like the answers are in that color.
But that's the thing. Like, we saw people adapt, and now I think this is very funny. All of the first chapter, you played 2/2s for your 1-drops, or you played like Captain Hook. You played stuff that had 2 health. Rarely did you play the 1/3s because it was better to have the extra strength in case it traded into stuff. And almost exclusively now, every deck that has a 1-drop has 3 health or higher.
It's the 1/3. Yeah, if there's one in its color, like Sapphire still doesn't have one, and Amber still doesn't have one, right? But Flynn, Olaf, Minnie Mouse,
Tiana.
Tiana, is that the steel one? So I don't know whether that's seen much play, I guess. But the other 3 definitely,
yeah. And but it got adapted to, and now you can't banish the card that they used to bounce. So
that's the thing, is you need to, like I say, at the moment I run the full suite of Olafs and Minis and Teeth in my Ruby Amber, because one, it can help with the occasional aggro matchup that you get, with the because that's the other thing with the aggro is got a little bit better with the bounce stuff as well, because now you don't necessarily have to find the bodyguard for them to hide behind. You just have to quest and bounce them back, and it's a little slower, but still, questing for 3 with the Pinocchio and bouncing it back to your hand before they can deal with it, is really pretty good. So it's there to answer that as well. But even still, that package is in Ruby, and Ruby, for the most part, is being played with Amethyst. So it just kind of like the answer. It's kind of the same with like pinging damage of steel and resisting steel. It's like the color answers itself, which is kind of weird, really. You don't necessarily see that much in other games. So it's going to be really interesting to see whether the game really feels whole after set 3.
Yeah.
Or if it feels like set 1 and 2 with locations. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be really interesting to see whether it does feel like they were built together and stuff. So maybe they'll surprise us. I hope they surprise us. I hope that it really shakes things up. But as it stands, I just think that the control / solitaire gameplay of Ruby Amethyst is going to be very difficult to beat for now, at least.
Yep, I agree.
There we go. But overall, I feel like we've ended on a bit of a downer there, but it's been an incredible year, to go from. I mean, I said this on Citizens of Lorcana did a similar thing the other day where they were going back over the year, and we both guested on that. And I said in that, it's kind of crazy to think that 12 months ago we were looking at 9 cards, I guess. And now we're over 400, moving up to 600 in the space of a couple of months.
Yeah.
It's been a crazy ride, but I've enjoyed every second of it, and I really very much look forward to 2024 in full. I'm super glad, by the way. I'm gonna say this all sloppy now on the video, but I'm super glad we managed to get this off the ground, because I'm having an absolute blast doing this with you every week. Definitely a highlight of my week, and I hope people watching feel the same. I'm sure they do, because they're here after 3 hours of us waffling.
Just chatting. Sometimes it feels like we, like, you and I are just on a call talking to each other, and people just happen to be listening.
I 100% agree. Especially in weeks like this, where we're more just talking about the game in general rather than just like new stuff or something a bit more specific, So new mechanic with the Mama Odi where you can transfer damage. I think that could be good. It definitely needs to be put on a better statted card and a better playable card. But I do like the idea of moving damage around, getting over things like resist and evasive. Oh, there you go. Travis is right ahead of me. It goes through. I don't think it won't go through Ward. I don't think it beats Ward, because it's still chosen. Ward just means you can't be chosen to do anything. So I don't think it beats Ward, but it definitely goes past resist and evasives and stuff like that. So playing on Pixelborn, Lorcana all the way. I love it. Just pump it into your veins, Camille.
By the way, Camille, you're asking me if I'm going to watch the Pokemon Portland regionals. No idea. Don't know when they are, but I'll probably see what the attendance is and what wins. And sometimes I like to watch the casting. I particularly like the casting team that Pokemon usually have, and they I hope so badly. Ravensburg, if you're listening and you haven't already, go look and see what Pokemon does for their regionals and their broadcasting, because it's very, very well done, and anything even resembling it would be phenomenal for Lorcana.
That's the gold standard, eh? That's what they need to hit.
As far as I know, I don't watch like Magic large tournaments, whatever they have, so I'm not familiar with how nice or not nice they are, but I always enjoy watching the Pokemon ones when I do. I think they're very good.
Okay, so the Portland ones are it's the January 5th.
Okay, so this weekend,
Portland. So I might look at that then, because I'm interested in seeing how it's all put together. So the Ward, you're still chilling. Is there any cards that grant Ward to other cards? Aurora. I think she's the only one, actually, but the Ward Aurora from set 1. She was on the cover of the Sapphire Steel deck, but she's good. I like her still. She's just a little slow at the minute, unfortunately, and
Yeah.
But that's the other thing. I would love to see Sapphire become a thing because
Hmm.
it burnt hot and quick with items for like a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't honestly. And then this is why I always worry because I feel like I'm relatively on top of the competitive nature of the game, and even if I in the moment don't necessarily always play perfectly, and like I feel like I understand what makes a good deck and what makes a good player.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
don't really know why items were good for a week and then not.
See. Okay. So I wouldn't say they're still not good. I think because actually I think Popsicle is a little bit on a like trend upwards. Not so much in um it doing well in events, but it was the deck for Rise of the Floodborn for about a week,
Mhm.
and then people were like, "This is just not it," and dropped it. And now I think people have started to refine the deck a lot more, and it's starting to see a little bit more consistency. But the deck basically lives or dies on can you find Popsicle and Hiram.
And Hiram, yeah. So that was the only thing I could really think of is that like, because I don't enjoy those kind of decks. I don't like the idea of it being revolving around one card and having to find that card. Saying that, I've had a blast with the Mufasa deck, and that kind of lives or dies on Mufasa. I don't know. Maybe it's just because maybe because otherwise you're still just playing good stuff. I guess.
Well, and that's
Even,
the thing,
but
like,
yeah.
oh, so this is a funny, a kind of a funny story. 2 weeks ago at a league, I played a 3-person multiplayer game, and one of my opponents was playing a like not all the way put together Popsicle build. He didn't have all the be prepared and Maleficents, things like that, but he had kind of the engine. And I swear there was a time when he had 24 cards in his hand, and it's like every turn he could play items and he could draw cards, and he could play more items and he could draw cards.
Yeah.
And there was just nothing else that he could do. And I
Yeah,
feel,
like
and it's like,
I've drawn loads of cards. Cool.
yeah,
How'd you win?
yeah, exactly. And so I think that's where the deck can fail sometimes, is it doesn't have like it has difficulty finishing.
Yeah.
Whereas with with the Mufasa deck, it's like you hit a couple good cards with Mufasa and you've got a pretty solid board and pretty difficult to counter, and like you can win the game in that way. Like drawing cards
Yeah.
is good. It's one of the best things you can do in Lorcana and any TCG. But unless you have a way to close out the game, you can draw as many cards as you want. And
Yeah, I suppose that's it really, is like the Mufasa deck, it's okay, you've got Mufasa on 5, and if something happens, that's cool. But if not, you've got Tremaine on 6 and, Surfer on 7, and you could just carry on playing the game, even if your Mufasa isn't spinning or you didn't find him or whatever, right? Like it definitely makes the deck fun and interesting, and it's kind of built around it. But I suppose the same with that Sapphire Emerald one I'm playing. Like the deck's kind of built around Bucky being out for the Floodborn value, or having Lucifer and being able to bibbity bobbity it. But if you don't see either of those, I'm still just playing a pretty low to the curve good stuff deck, like a low to the ground good stuff deck. So yeah, maybe that's the trick. Yeah, Popsicle. I do think Popsicle has pretty much found its home as just the one drop in Sapphire at the moment.
yeah,
Because Sapphire doesn't have that 1/3 that's the preferred stat line for the one drops at the moment. You're more than happy to just sort of pulps and go on there, but you do get a lot of dopamine from drawing a million cards. Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you could just win by drawing cards, you'd be good. And then who knows? There are 100%. There are cards in Magic that say if you have so many cards in your hand, you win. If there are cards that say if you go to draw a card and you can't, you win. Like that's like a real weird off meta alternate win con. Like the game's got years ahead of it, and all this sort of stuff can come in. Something I would like to talk about actually in the future is alternate win conditions and whether or not we'd like to see them heavily. But I'm a big fan. One of my favorite Magic cards is Revel in Riches, which says if you have 10 treasures, you win. And treasures are just like I said before, like a single use ink basically that you can generate, and if you have 10 of them, you win. And I just love that sort of stuff because it completely shifts the dynamic of the game, I can really get behind them, and I don't really think we have one in Lorcana yet. It's that's why I don't
think so.
mind mill. Mill arguably is the only other alternate win con at the moment, is milling your partner, willing your opponent out. But you could argue that like Alice and Bell, the big Alice and Bells are not necessarily alternate win cons. They're still getting you to 20 lore, but they're they're alternate ways of getting there. You know, they're like you're having to do different
unconventional
things. Yeah, unconventional ways of doing it. But yeah, I kind of love the idea of seeing more of them in the future. But anyway, I'm sure we could go on, but let's not. Where can people find you, Brandon?
People can find me on YouTube at B²24. You can find me on Instagram and on Twitter at B²24, capital Y, capital T. I uploaded a video today. It's the third video in my Why You Should Play series. I go over why you should play Amethyst. I talked a little bit about it here, but I appreciate any views and likes and comments on that kind of thing, engagements.
They're awesome. Yeah. They're really well put together videos, and they're a really great way of looking at each color. To be fair, though, the Amethyst one does just say it's Amethyst. What? Just play Amethyst.
It kind
Thanks
of
for
does.
watching.
I'll spoil a little bit of the video, and like normally in my Why You Should Play ink colors, you know, I try to go through all the themes and strategies that each ink, you know, comes up with, and people like different play styles. So if they find something they resonate with, you know, you should play with this. And I straight up in the video, I'm like, the only reason you need to want to play Amethyst is if you want to win the game, because you will win the game when you play Amethyst.
Yeah, pretty much. That's awesome. So that was this week in ink. What does your next week in ink look like?
Going to League this week. Hopefully, people continue to show up, and
awesome.
There's more than just two of us. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Very exciting.
Right before, I guess yesterday, I ordered all of the foils that I was missing for the first chapter collection. Oh. So I don't have all the enchanteds yet, but all the foil cards will be coming in for just a binder full of it.
What was the most expensive one, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't remember because I ordered them all at once. It was probably like, I mean, it was all the legendaries. So it was like Rapunzel probably was the most expensive one, if I had to guess. So I could actually look.
That was your Christmas present to yourself?
Yeah, basically. It was like, I think it was like $300 to order all of it. And I was like, I'll do it now before, you know, I'm too late.
At some point, it's all just going to start trickling back up again, right? Like, I do think as well, I will say that if you are looking at doing foil sets, and this goes to everybody, there is a good chance that if the game does well and keeps getting produced, and in a few years' time, there's a good chance that set 2 stuff ends up being more expensive than set 1. Because very often or not, especially with like a limited release in the first place, they will really print set 1, but maybe not as much of 2, and less people hold on to 2, and you actually find that set 2 ends up being the one that I'm pretty sure that happened with Pokemon. I think like obviously like the first edition stuff of Pokemon's really expensive, but then is it Jungle?
I think it's Jungle. It's either Jungle or Fossil. I don't remember.
Fossil. I think it might be Fossil. Like that's really up there price wise, for stuff now. So yeah, for that reason, there just wasn't quite as much of it around. But yeah, it's exciting stuff. And yeah, I'm doing the same really. Back to League, we're drafting this Saturday, Rise of the Floodborn draft. Which will be fun, and then we're going to do one more draft before set 3 drops, and we're actually going to do a 2 and 2. So we're going to do 2 packs from first chapter, 2 packs from Floodborn.
Oh, that's fun!
And see how that goes, because Rise of the Floodborn, as fun as it is, doesn't draft as well as set 1 because it's missing a lot of like card draw, removal, just sort of staple stuff. So we're going to try 2 and 2 and see how that goes. That sounds like a lot of fun. So yeah, but this week just a regular Floodborn draft. Pricing is going to be a Trove or a D100 gift set for first. They get to pick whichever they want. Second place gets whatever first place didn't pick, and then third place gets a Beast playmat, because we have a few of those.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, technically, first place could take the playmat if they really wanted to. Like it's basically just first.
Yeah, playmats are hard to find.
First place gets pick of them. Yeah, like I think they probably would if it was a Winnie the Pooh one. That was the one that people wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll be good fun. But we'll be back here next Monday. We'll be taking a look. If there's any card reveals by then, we'll take a look at them. And if not, we'll probably come up with the topic to get chatting with the live chat. We appreciate you being here. Thank you very much for the donations. They all just go straight back into the stream, supporting it with being able to get a hold of product and equipment and whatever else. So we very greatly appreciate it. We don't run ads on these because people were moaning that ads got played randomly. So adverts are turned off for this. So the way we make it work is by taking donations. So we appreciate the support, and we appreciate you being here, watching and chatting. We love you all to bits. So until next week in ink.
That was This Week in Ink.
See you, folks.
This year in ink.
Till next year in ink. That's it. We're doing these annually now.
Hey, why not? Why not?